Before graduation, my sister's belly was getting big, so I urged my mom to take her to the gynecologist. My mom slapped me right across the face and cursed me out like there was no tomorrow. Your sister is well behaved and a good student. How dare you spread rumors to ruin her? You're so vile. How did I ever give birth to a thing like you? Later, my sister's pregnancy test was discovered by a classmate who exposed her, leading to her immediate expulsion from school. My sister insisted that I had set her up, claiming I had someone assault her to get her pregnant. My mother, consumed by hatred for me, joined my sister in holding me down and slowly poured scalding hot oil over me until I died. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the moment my sister stood before the mirror asking me, "Do you think I've put on a little weight?" I smiled faintly. It's a blessing. A little extra weight is nothing to worry about, if I remember correctly. Her due date is right around the time of the college entrance exams. No, I didn't. It wasn't me. I never hired anyone to hurt my sister. My body was pinned down hard against the kitchen countertop. How dare you deny it? Your own sister said it was you who set her up and got her pregnant. You wretched bastard. I never should have picked you up off the streets. My cries were cut short. My eyes widened in shock, and I stared at my mother in utter disbelief. So I wasn't her biological child. No wonder she had never shown me a shred of kindness, only beatings and harsh words. Ever since I was little, my heart sank into near despair as I watched, helpless, the oil in the wok churn and release a wave of nauseating fumes. Mom, why are you still wasting your breath on this bitch? Perfect, now you can die. My sister scooped up a ladle of the scalding oil, and in the next instant, it came cascading down over my head. My body couldn't withstand the torment of such intense heat. That single moment was enough to make me lose consciousness. The strength of my struggles gradually faded, yet they remained unsatisfied, relentlessly ladling scalding oil over my body, spoonful by spoonful. In my haze, the pain throughout my body vanished. I opened my eyes, and there before me was my younger sister, admiring herself in the mirror as she twirled in her newly bought floral dress. I once regarded them as family, but now my heart holds nothing but hatred. I looked my sister up and down with eyes full of resentment. I wanted nothing more than to strangle her right then, but reason held me back. In this life, I will make them both pay, too. Sis, look at me, have I put on a lot of weight? My younger sister, holding the hem of her little dress, walked up to me with earnest anticipation. In my past life, it was this same harmless, innocent act of hers that made me let my guard down. I never could have imagined that the sister I thought was so sweet and innocent would be capable of doing something like that. It wasn't until after I died that I learned the truth. On our 18th birthday, she said she was going out all night with friends to celebrate. Instead, she ended up getting pregnant after a one-night stand with some lowlife. Later, when she found out she was pregnant and the deadbeat ran off, she couldn't hide it anymore, so she threw all the blame on me. Now I can only manage a faint, wry smile. What do you mean, gained weight? And even if you have, it's a blessing. A little extra weight is nothing to worry about. My sister pursed her lips, as if weighing how sincere my words were. All right, stop overthinking it. We're seniors now. The most important thing is to focus on preparing for the college entrance exams. Ugh, never mind. There's no point talking to a bookworm like you. My sister abruptly pulled away from me and left the room on her own. I looked at my sister, mentally calculating her due date. If I remember correctly, it should be right around the time of the college entrance exams. I walked out of the room and saw my sister hiding in the bathroom. The door was left ajar, but I could still hear her muttering something quietly inside. Where am I supposed to get the money? Didn't I already give you all the money my mom gave me for the hotel room? Stop making excuses. You have to take me to buy a pregnancy test this week. All right, I can't talk anymore. My sister's home, and I don't want her overhearing this. That one little pregnancy test strip ruined my entire life, but the one who truly dragged me into hell was my venomous, heartless sister. Since you've shown no mercy, don't blame me for showing none in return. I turned off the recording app on my phone. Every word of that conversation was captured, clear as day, right there in my device. I had just put my phone away when Mom came back from grocery shopping. She's never had much time for me. When it comes to shopping and cooking, she only ever caters to my sister's preferences. What are you just standing there for? I've been out slaving over groceries, and you can't even be bothered to start cooking. I clenched my fists, but it wasn't the time to explode just yet, so the next second, I put on a smile. Mom, I was just about to come out and help you with the cooking. Don't move, I've got it. 3. I was close to the bathroom, and I clearly heard my sister frantically hang up the phone. Seeing her guilty look, I couldn't help but find it amusing. I walked over to my mother. In my past life, it was at this exact moment that I told her my sister's belly was getting bigger. I was only trying to be helpful, suggesting she take my sister to the hospital for a checkup. She immediately slapped me and started screaming at me as if she wanted to tear me apart. Your sister is so well behaved and gets good grades, and you want to spread rumors to ruin her. How vile. How could I have given birth to something like you? Back then, I was so wrapped up in my own hurt feelings that I completely missed the hesitation in her eyes. Perhaps, deep down, she did believe what I was saying. It's just that, since I wasn't her biological daughter, she was more inclined to protect my sister, so it didn't matter what my sister said. Even if she confessed that she got pregnant from fooling around, Mom would still find a way to pin it all on me. My fate was already sealed. After dinner, Mom went to the neighbors to play cards, my sister went out on a date, and I immediately contacted the police station to arrange a DNA comparison. By the next morning, the police had already matched my DNA to my biological parents' records in their database and informed me they would follow up and notify me of the next steps, and so, I truly set my plan for revenge into motion. Mom, my little sister just said she's craving crab. Oh really? I bet it's you who wants it, you little rascal. Mom looked at me with a face full of disbelief, so I turned to look at my sister, fixing her with a knowing expression. Sis, you're the one who wants to eat crab, right? Yeah. Mom, can you go buy some for me? Since we were a single-parent family and Mom didn't have a steady job, the food at home wasn't great. It's cabbage and potatoes all day long. If we're lucky, we get an egg. I'm sick of eating this stuff, and my little sister is even more so I knew that even if she thought I was the greedy one, she'd still claim she wanted it herself, just to get a taste of crab. The moment Mom heard my sister admit it, she happily went out to buy some. What an idiot. My sister's grades aren't great, and she even lacks basic common sense. She doesn't know that cold, raw food is a major taboo for pregnant women. I helped you this time. Next time you need something, you have to help me too. My sister pouted, acting as if she wasn't the one who wanted to eat the crab in the first place. I just nodded with a cheerful grin, signaling my agreement. Of course I'd help her. I'd help her hide that pregnancy test. Alright, right before I'd make sure she was utterly humiliated in front of everyone, I busied myself in the kitchen, and my sister slipped out again. She thought I wasn't paying attention to the commotion outside, so she didn't hold back. By the time my sister returned, she was holding a box of pregnancy tests. She didn't dare open the package at home. As I placed the final dish on the table, I caught my sister out of the corner of my eye, stealthily tucking the box of pregnancy tests into the very bottom of her backpack. But this scene didn't escape our mother's notice either. With a furrowed brow, she asked my sister, "What are you doing?" 5. Of course, I wasn't about to let Mom figure things out right then and there. I said with a laugh, probably just my little sister's secret, "Mom, could you go steam the crabs in the kitchen? They'll spoil and go to waste if they die. I think I need to use the restroom." Sure enough, her attention was diverted. You can't even handle a simple task properly. Honestly, soon, the crabs were served, and my sister promptly claimed the entire plate for herself. Eat up, all of it. I wasn't the least bit surprised. The only reason she covered for me was to satisfy her own gluttony. I leisurely ate the cabbage leaves from my bowl, watching with calm amusement as she devoured one crab after another. She ate until she was completely full, leaving only 3 lonely crabs on the plate. I didn't touch my chopsticks, because I knew that if I so much as took a single crab leg, Mom would give me an earful. It hurts, my stomach hurts so much. My younger sister suddenly cried out, clutching her stomach, her face twisted in agony. Mom was so startled she dropped her chopsticks and rushed over to check on my sister. "Lorna, call a car right now and take your sister to the hospital." Amidst all the panic, I calmly picked up a crab, because I knew we wouldn't be going to the hospital. Wouldn't that just give us away? Sure enough, my sister's face instantly went pale upon hearing this. "No, Mom, I don't want to go. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a bit." 6. She's only in the early stages of pregnancy. This small amount of crab won't be enough to harm the baby. All I wanted was to tarnish my sister's innocent image, yet I acted more frantic than anyone, as if I were genuinely worried about her safety. We can't just let this go. If my sister really doesn't want to go to the hospital, I'll go ask the neighbors for some stomach medicine. While supporting my sister, Mom urged me to hurry up. Grumbling all the while, I knocked on Auntie Wang's door next door. Auntie Wang was the neighborhood's notorious busybody. She loved listening to everyone's gossip and was even better at spreading it with her own dramatic embellishments. "What's the rush, dear? My sister has a terrible stomachache from eating crab. She's pale as a ghost but refuses to go to the hospital. My mom sent me to ask if you have any stomach medicine, but your little sister loves crab, doesn't she? She can usually polish off a dozen without any trouble. These symptoms you're describing, you don't think she could be pregnant, do you? Auntie Wang, how can you say that? My sister is just a child." All right, I was just thinking out loud. "Let me go get the medicine for you." Auntie Wine did more than just mention it in passing. She blabbed about my sister's stomachache, and to make matters worse, someone claimed to have seen my sister sneaking off to the pharmacy to buy a pregnancy test. Just like that, the rumor that my sister was pregnant spread like wildfire among the neighbors. The next day, my sister and I went to school together. In my past life, my sister secretly took a pregnancy test in the school bathroom during PE class. When she saw the 2 lines, she was too scared to throw it in the school trash, so she stuffed it in her bag, planning to toss it somewhere off campus after school. But as luck would have it, a girl from the class next door, who suspected the popular boy had a crush on my sister, went and rummaged through her bag. In no time at all, the news of my sister's pregnancy spread like wildfire through the school. She was asked to leave. Mom rushed to take my sister for an abortion, then pinned the blame on me. She insisted it was because I was jealous of her that I had someone get her pregnant. She said I had been threatening her, so she didn't dare seek any help openly. My mother even helped my sister fabricate an alibi. Later, I was expelled. It made the news, and I became a textbook example of a societal disgrace. My reputation was utterly destroyed, but it seemed my sister's hatred was still not sated. She goaded our mother into pinning me down in the kitchen and pouring boiling oil over me. 7. This time, I beat my sister to it and asked the PE teacher for leave before she could rush back. With practiced ease, I rummaged through my sister's backpack, found the pregnancy test, and tossed it into the school's trash disposal. When my sister returned, she searched high and low but couldn't find the pregnancy test. She turned and looked at me, sitting calmly at my desk, doing my homework as if nothing was wrong. "Did you take something of mine?" she confronted me, her tone full of accusation. I, however, adopted a look of concern. "Little sister, how did you come to have that sort of thing?" My sister's face fell. My response was as good as a confession. It was me who had taken her things. "Why do you care so much? Just give me my stuff back," my sister said, reaching out to grab my backpack. "I already threw it away." "What? How could you throw my things away?" My sister was furious and immediately went to grab me by the collar. "Calm down. This isn't the place for that in the classroom. Don't you realize you're being watched? I suspect someone will go through your backpack at noon." My sister looked at me with a mixture of belief and doubt. "If you dare breathe a word of this, you'll regret it. And if no one goes through my backpack by noon, I'll make you pay for that too, in the end." My sister let go of me, following my instructions. She hid by the back door at noon, keeping a close watch on everything happening in the classroom. "What are you doing?" 8. Just as expected, that girl took advantage of the empty classroom and sneaked over to my sister's desk. She had just crouched down, about to start rummaging through it. My sister has a fiery temper. She immediately jumped out, baring her teeth and shouting at her. "I didn't do anything. What right do you have to yell at me?" The other girl wasn't about to back down either. I just stood there like a bystander, watching them tear into each other. Soon, the 2 girls' scuffle attracted the attention of the homeroom teacher. "What's all this racket about? Queenie, explain yourself." My little sister immediately tattled. "She was going through my stuff. Do you have any proof that I was going through your things? My older sister saw you. She can back me up." But when the homeroom teacher turned to me and asked if I had seen anything, I told her I had just come back from the restroom, and by the time I returned, they were already arguing. My sister stared at me in disbelief, but with the homeroom teacher present, she couldn't just blow up. "Pfft, who do you think you are, talking about me like that?" Now I understand what it means when they say every bully meets their match. In the end, the whole matter was left unresolved. But my younger sister's reputation in class took a serious hit. Quite a few people said she was making false accusations and being overly pedantic. Almost overnight, she became the person in class that everyone went out of their way to avoid. 9. After school, she blocked my way home. "You saw it with your own eyes. Why are you saying you didn't?" "But I really didn't see it." "Little sister, how could you think that of me?" The hurt tone in my voice drew the attention of many classmates who had gathered around. Quite a few people turned their gazes in our direction. "How could you not have seen it? You're the one who told me." "What did I tell you?" "Little sister, what did I do?" "Lorna, you." The words died on her lips. She knew that if she said any more, the fact that she had used a pregnancy test would come to light. "It's because of this that I've been so reckless." My sister's expression of anger restrained was something I had never seen before. I felt immensely satisfied, but I wasn't about to let her off that easily. "Sister, since you've misunderstood me so much, all you need to do is apologize, and I'll forgive you." My words were utterly sincere, as if a single, flippant sorry from her could truly make all the past grievances vanish into thin air. But I knew she wouldn't lower her head so easily, and I wouldn't be quick to forgive either. "Have you lost your mind? Why on earth should I apologize to you?" My younger sister reacted as if she had just heard the most absurd joke in the world. "Seriously, what's wrong with them? They clearly misunderstood the other person and still won't apologize, right? What a terrible person. I think I know who she is. Didn't she just accuse someone of going through her stuff today? Are you serious? That's so gross." The murmurs from the side grew louder, and my sister's face turned pale. Then flushed with anger, she bit her lower lip tightly, then stormed over to my side. She leaned close to my ear and whispered, in a voice meant only for the two of us, "You just wait, Mom's going to deal with you when we get home." My eyes instantly welled up with tears as I looked at my sister. "I know Mom has always favored you, but you were clearly in the wrong this time. Is it too much to ask for a simple apology?" I spoke very loudly, as if deliberately making sure the people around us could hear. "I can't stand to watch this anymore. Have you no shame at all?" A boy from the side stepped forward and grabbed the younger girl's backpack. "Apologize to her right now." "Yeah, you're not going anywhere until you apologize." Several bystanders chimed in agreement. My little sister suddenly became the target of everyone's criticism. "She's my sister. I can say whatever I want about her. What's it to you?" But no matter how much my sister ranted, those people were determined to stand up for me. She was so flustered she was on the verge of tears, and in the end, she had no choice but to back down. "Fine, I was wrong. Okay, I want to go home. Let me go." Although my sister's apology was half-hearted, everyone decided to let her off the hook. 10. Are you pregnant? The moment my sister got home, before she could even start crying to our mom about what happened at school, she was left trembling from our mother's words. "Who said that? It's all over the neighborhood." My sister's face darkened. She soon spotted me in the corner and, pointing her finger right at my face, started spouting nonsense. "It's all lies. It must be Lorna spreading rumors. She even got that classmate to give me the cold shoulder at school today." With that, she lunged at me like a madwoman. I'm not an idiot. Of course I wasn't going to just stand there and wait for her. I sidestepped, and my sister missed her target, stumbling headlong toward the corner of the table. Almost instantly, she was on the floor, clutching her stomach and writhing in pain. Beads of sweat trickled down her temples from the pain. "Oh, my dear girl, are you all right?" Mother rushed over to help her younger sister up. "You wretch, how dare you treat your sister like that? Just you wait, I'm going to end you." I ignored her threat and silently started a countdown in my head. 3, 2, 1, knock, knock, knock. "Is anyone home?" 11. "Who's there?" Muttering under her breath, Mom got up and walked to the door. When she opened it, she was met by several burly men. "We're police officers. We've received a report of suspected child trafficking here. Please come with us to the station." "Oh, that's a terrible misunderstanding. How could that be? Look, there are only 2 children here, and they're both quite grown. How could anyone be trafficking children?" The mother shrank back as she spoke, clearly terrified at the prospect of going to the police station. "Was it you? Did you get mixed up in something shady outside?" Mom suddenly paused, then turned to point at me just like my sister did. "If you're going to arrest someone, take this bitch. She's definitely the one who went out and committed a crime." But why would the police listen to her nonsense? They just rounded all 3 of us up and took us to the station. "You are suspected of child trafficking." My mother flat out denied it. Good heavens, how could I possibly do such a thing? The statute of limitations for child trafficking is 20 years. This child is only 18. We received a report from the child's biological parents, alleging that you trafficked their child. How could that be? This is my child, my own flesh and blood. How could they possibly be someone else's? I watched my mother put on this whole show of motherly affection in front of me, and I just found it laughable. Ever since I was little, everything was always for my sister. I never got anything of my own. Even at mealtimes, I could only eat whatever my sister left behind. She always said I was her own flesh and blood, but if she hadn't slipped up in a past life, I might still be in the dark. The officer didn't say anything, but instead turned to ask me a question. He asked me how I had been treated at home all these years. I glanced at my mother, then pretended to be scared and shrank back, not saying a word directly. "What do you mean, you little brat? I never mistreated you. How could you do this? Tell them right now that I didn't kidnap you." "I don't know. Right before you arrived, Mom made me apologize to my sister, but I didn't do anything wrong." I kept silent about my treatment at home, but from those few words alone, the police could tell that the mother and daughter never treated me like a human being. I didn't. "Don't listen to a word this little bitch says. Besides, no matter how poorly I treated her, she's still my child. What right do you have to arrest me?" The fact that the police are asking such a question means they must already have some evidence in hand. Combined with my statement and our DNA test results, she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of this even if she had 10 mouths. If she had stated from the very beginning that I was not her biological child, there might have been insufficient evidence to convict her. She could have been acquitted on the grounds that I was an abandoned child she had adopted. 12. In the end, she was temporarily detained at the police station, while my sister and I were released after giving our statements. The moment I stepped outside, a gray-haired woman rushed over and threw her arms around me. "Babe, you are..." I looked at her hesitantly. I couldn't be sure if she was my mother, yet I felt an instinctive warmth and familiarity. "It's me, your mom. I've been searching for you for so long. Come on, let's go home. You can't leave." My little sister suddenly shrieked from behind me, then pushed past our mother to plant herself squarely in my path. blocking my way. If you go, what am I supposed to do? Who's going to cook for me? I couldn't help but look at her with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. Her own mother was suffering in prison. Yet all she could think about was that there was no one to cook for her. I'm not your nanny. What does that have to do with me? I don't care. If you dare leave, you'll regret it. It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. In my past life, I ended up in this state because they schemed against me. In this life, she has no power to threaten me. All right then, I'm curious to see just how you plan on not letting me off the hook. 13. I went back home with my biological mother. She told me that my adoptive father had worked as a laborer in the family factory before he passed away. The man, drunk at the factory, tried to assault my mother who had come to supervise, but he accidentally stumbled, hit his head on a machine, and bled to death. My adoptive mother, holding a grudge, secretly snuck into the hospital and took me away. My mother kept the surveillance footage from that time in perfect condition, which is the most direct and powerful evidence, however. That woman ran a long way, taking me and her own child with her. My mother searched through many cities, but in the end, she couldn't find me. Just as my mother was about to give up, she received a call from the police saying someone who might be her daughter had reported to them. At that moment, her heart, which had nearly given up hope, was rekindled. After confirming with the police several times, she immediately rushed back to the city without a moment's delay and also filed a police report. She was determined to make that woman pay. Mom finally understood just how hard my life had been all these years. With tears welling up in her eyes, she said it was all her fault. Mom will take you away tomorrow, get you transferred to a new school. Okay, let's leave this place. No, Mom, I'm not leaving. There are still things I need to do. I haven't yet seen my dear little sister's ruin with my own eyes. The next day, when I returned to school, I noticed that many people were looking at me with strange, unsettling expressions. My younger sister strutted over to me, a smug look on her face, and said, "I'm going to make you experience what it's like to be ostracized and given the silent treatment by everyone." I ignored her and went straight to a classmate I was on good terms with to ask what was going on. Without hesitation, they told me everything. "Your sister said you've been sleeping around with other men, and that you threw a pregnancy test in the school trash. The teachers are checking the security footage now, and some are even going through the garbage." She said that at first, no one believed it, but when the homeroom teacher stormed into the classroom, holding that pregnancy test and looking for me, everyone fell silent. So, I became the one left in the mud. My classmate scratched his head. "Lorna, even with the evidence right there, I still can't believe you'd do this." I smiled. Well, that really wasn't me. This time, I was calmer than anyone. In my past life, I heard far more gossip and idle talk than I do now. Back then, I couldn't defend myself no matter what I said. No one believed me. But now, things are different. 14. My homeroom teacher summoned me to the principal's office. This was a serious matter, one that had even reached the school's upper management. I had no connections, so there was no one to vouch for me. "How could you do such a thing? You're just a student. Your only job right now is to focus on your studies. How could you engage in such shameless behavior?" Without even hearing my side of the story, the principal launched into a tirade against me. I waited quietly until the principal had shouted himself hoarse before I finally spoke, slowly. "This isn't mine." The principal didn't believe me. "You still say it's not yours. The security footage clearly shows you throwing it in the trash." "I was throwing that away for my sister." "What is the meaning of this? Are you two sisters making fools of us?" One reports her sister for using a pregnancy test, and the other claims she was just throwing it away for her. My sister, who had been hiding behind the door watching me make a fool of myself, couldn't hold back a laugh. "Sis, I know you don't want to get expelled, but you can't just go around slandering me like that, really." I pulled out my phone from my pocket and played the voice recording of her phone call from the bathroom that day. I turned the volume up to the maximum, so not only the principal and my sister, but also the students gathered outside to watch the commotion, could hear it. My sister's face turned pale. "Lorna, you set me up. Damn you. How dare you do this to me?" "Right back at you." The headmaster's face darkened, and he immediately sent my sister home. "We're so sorry, Lorna. We misunderstood you. We will make a school-wide announcement to clear your name." I gave a nod, then walked out of the office without looking back. When I returned to the classroom, a number of onlookers were craning their necks, waiting for me to enter, but they still didn't know the truth. Seeing me go back to reading as usual, they grew restless. Why hasn't he been expelled yet? Seriously, after all this? And she's still not dropping out. Ugh, just stay away from her. It's disgusting. Just as they were ganging up on me, talking over each other, the principal's voice suddenly came over the PA system. He explained everything clearly to all the students, clearing my name, while also subtly indicating that my sister had been asked to leave the school. The whole room erupted in an uproar. What if it's her sister who's pregnant? 15. The class launched into another round of discussion. But when they asked me, I didn't breathe a word. For a long time after that, I didn't see my sister at all, but knowing her, I was sure she wouldn't just give up. After my foster mother was sentenced to several years in prison, my sister, who couldn't take care of herself, came looking for me again soon enough. You must be feeling pretty smug, aren't you? If it weren't for you, I never would have been expelled. And my mom wouldn't be in jail. You're the one who destroyed my happy life. I laughed. That's because you're an idiot. You think you're getting back at me. You think I didn't know you'd try to frame me. Even if I told them to check the security footage, you'd just claim I planted it there myself and staged the whole thing to get you expelled. Then take a guess. Why do you think the classroom security camera just happened to malfunction? Because that recording is far more useful for getting me off the hook. The penny finally dropped for Queenie. It was you. You set me up, you bitch. Just you wait. I found Mom's savings, and I'm going to make good use of every last penny. I will ruin you, she smiled, an inscrutable and deeply unsettling smile. Soon after, my school was trending online because of a video. The face in the video was my sister's. My school expelled me because they believed rumors and deemed me to have poor character. I am now publicly reporting that the principal accepted bribes and expelled students without proper authority. I hope everyone can help me out by sharing this widely. Let's get this story the attention it deserves so I can get justice. My sister spoke with such heartfelt sincerity in the video that, if I were a stranger, I'd probably have fallen for her lies. I looked at the medical report in her video, which stated not pregnant. It was clearly fabricated, however. It also indirectly proves that she had already gone to the hospital for a checkup and was aware of the false rumors about her pregnancy. She has no public profile. The only plausible reason her video gained traction so quickly is that she used her adoptive mother's money to buy the online buzz. The video spread rapidly and reached a vast audience. Soon, irrational netizens will come to our school to cause trouble. No matter what PR statement the school issues or what evidence it presents, it will be drowned out by the torrent of online criticism. They don't care about the truth at all. They just want an outlet to vent their frustrations and pour out their resentment. 16. Under pressure, the school finally allowed my sister to return to class. After a while, the buzz around that video died down. Everything was going according to my plan. On the chessboard I had so carefully prepared, I was just one move away from checkmate. However, her money was gone for good. Don't you walk away. Give me the money. If you hadn't gotten my mom thrown in jail, I wouldn't be this broke and starving. You owe me this. You have to pay up. I couldn't be bothered to engage with her. Just like I'd ignored that video, I was still waiting, biding my time for the perfect moment to deliver the final, crushing blow. I raised my phone. The screen showed the recording had already passed the 1-minute mark. If you don't leave right now, I'll take this video to the police and report you for harassment. I hope you die a horrible death. I hate you. Her earlier bravado was clearly gone. After hurling that insult, she walked away with a contorted expression on her face. I knew she wanted money, and it wasn't because she couldn't afford a meal. She could no longer hide her pregnancy. Unfortunately, she no longer had the money for an abortion, so she started wearing looser clothes, and her body became visibly swollen. Someone remarked, "You seem to have put on quite a bit of weight, haven't you?" Yeah, I've been so busy studying lately. I haven't been watching what I eat at all. Every time I see it, I can't help but laugh. My sister's brain seems to have completely forgotten that her due date is right during the college entrance exams. 17. On the day of the college entrance exam, my mom prepared a feast for me. Only after I had eaten my fill did I set off for the test center. As luck would have it, my younger sister and I were assigned to the same examination hall. By this point, she was already having some difficulty sitting down. Not long after the Chinese language exam began, her piercing scream echoed throughout the entire classroom. "The baby's coming. Please, someone help me. My stomach hurts so much. What do I do? I need to get to the hospital now." The invigilators were all stunned, seemingly never expecting someone to go into labor during the national college entrance exams. Soon enough, one of the patrol officers snapped to attention and hastily called for an ambulance. The incident quickly trended online right after the Chinese language exam ended. Many people dug up that she was the same girl from that earlier video, playing the victim for sympathy. In an instant, the court of public opinion swung to the other side. I always knew she was no good. What's with the act? Playing the innocent victim. Whoa. Giving birth during an exam. That's a whole new level of crazy. Finally, riding this wave of attention, I compiled all the recordings, videos, and scandals involving that mother-daughter duo into one big package and posted it all online. The public reaction to this article has been huge. In the comments section, many people condemned the mother and daughter, but even more expressed sympathy for my ordeal. Some netizens even managed to dox the hospital where she gave birth. It said the child died during a difficult labor, but she herself is still clinging to life. The hospital was swarmed by reporters, and it took a great deal of effort for me to get inside. Are you here to gloat? Are you happy now? Look what you've done to me. No, I'm not happy. I'd rather you were dead. My sister really died. 18. Throughout my sister's hospital stay, someone kept calling her phone. It was nothing but a barrage of insults and verbal abuse. Some even sent threatening letters and prank packages to the hospital, and because she couldn't afford the hospital fees, she was immediately kicked out. She became completely disoriented and mentally foggy. Ever since then, she's been lingering around our school every day. I'm not pregnant. I need to go to school. I need to take the college entrance exam. I'm not pregnant. I need to go to school. I need to take the college entrance exam. She kept repeating that same sentence over and over. How does she even have the nerve to show her face here? Today was the day to return to school to collect the diploma, and quite a few classmates noticed her. Exactly. Aren't you embarrassed enough? I told you. I didn't do it. I didn't. Suddenly, she went berserk and charged into the crowd. She was holding a fruit knife, calling my name over and over, saying she was going to kill me. I just stood there in the crowd, watching her from a distance. Blood sprayed all over the ground. You lunatic, get out of the middle of the road. Let's get out of here. What a mess. That lunatic got himself killed. Call the police. Quite a few people on the scene were taken to the police station as witnesses, and I was no exception. The moment I stepped out of the police station, I felt an indescribable sense of relief. Just then, my mom called. Sweetie, why aren't you home for dinner yet? I made a whole feast. On my way, I raced toward the setting sun. I can finally, truly, and wholeheartedly begin to enjoy my life. The end. Story 2. In my past life, my best friend gave me a longevity lock, but little did I know that once I put it on, it couldn't be taken off. What's more, I had a fever for 7 days straight, and after waking up, misfortune followed me everywhere. Only then did I realize that my destined wealth and prosperity had been swapped with her husband's fate of an early death. From then on, they lived a blissful life making money without lifting a finger, while I struggled in poverty, plagued by misfortune, and met an untimely end at 30 when I was accidentally struck by a car. As I lay dying, my brother with superhuman strength and cognitive challenges let out a cry and threw himself in front of me, but it was futile. Unable to stop fate, we both perished together. When I opened my eyes after being reborn, I found myself back at the moment she was about to put the longevity lock on me. I thought with a cold laugh, since she wanted to steal my prosperous fate, I'd give her an overbearing husband instead. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. As the doors swung open with a bang, my best friend Lena came in holding a cake with lit candles. The other roommates suddenly realized with surprise that it was my birthday today. Oh my gosh, Lena, you're so thoughtful. I'm so envious that Mina has a best friend like you. Lena suppressed her pride and pretended to be embarrassed as she said, "Oh, it's nothing. Isn't it only natural to be good to Mina?" She handed me a gift box and asked me to open it to see if I liked it. Inside was a gold longevity lock. Everyone gasped and murmured, "This must have cost a fortune." In my past life, I was first pleasantly surprised that Lena remembered my birthday, and then utterly moved by such an extravagant gift. But I had no idea this lock was actually a cursed talisman. Once worn, it would swap my life force with her boyfriend's. I was bedridden with a high fever for a whole week, no warning, no apparent cause, and even the doctors were at a loss. But after I recovered, everything went downhill. I hit rock bottom, couldn't catch a break, and barely had enough to eat. Meanwhile, her husband started living the high life, finding money on the streets and hitting the jackpot with lottery tickets. I only lived 10 more years before being struck and killed by a car, and as I lay dying, the Taoist priest who once told my fortune happened to pass by. He said my fate was originally one of immense nobility and boundless wealth. How did it come to such an untimely and tragic end? Only then did I realize that my fate had been swapped out from the moment she put that lock on me at 20. A cruel smile flickered in Lena's eyes. Yet she gently took out the lock. "Mina, let me help you put it on. I spent a long time picking out this gift. It's perfect for you. This lock has been custom crafted and polished. If I put it on, I'll never be able to take it off for the rest of my life." I quickly dodged out of the way. She froze for a moment, then looked hurt and said, "Don't you like the gift I gave you? But I saved up for it bit by bit from my living expenses over half a year." Whatever, it's not like anyone likes me anyway. My gift is just trash. No wonder it's being looked down on. Hearing this, my roommates all felt sorry for me and started scolding me. "Mina, this is her sincere gesture. How heartless must you be to ignore her like this? I misjudged you. Fine, we won't give you any gifts either. I appreciate the sentiment and the gift, but I already have a necklace on." Lena's eyes welled up. "The one I gave you is more expensive. Isn't it worth wearing?" Just then, my brother Jude's booming voice echoed from downstairs. "Sis, see, come down." I suddenly remembered that my family had promised to take me to a banquet today to celebrate my 22nd birthday, so I made an excuse and slipped away. To my surprise, Lena followed me and grabbed my hand. "Mina, try it on, I know you'll love it." Even though I'd already accepted it, she insisted on putting it on me herself. Jude's pupils dilated as he abruptly pushed Lena away. She already said she didn't want to wear it. Stop bothering her. Lena was startled and stood there frozen in place. I had to make up an excuse about having something to do and dragged my younger brother away, but to my surprise, she posted about him on the confession wall that very night. The photo was taken by a passerby, and her face was full of panic when her brother pushed her away. I was just trying to be nice by giving a gift, but her brother yelled at me. Was I really in the wrong? Several comments below are stirring up drama. That guy is a total jerk with serious issues. The girl is sweet and kind-hearted. Stay away from her so-called friend. Is that Jude? Honestly, every time I see her brother, it's downright creepy. Why should someone like Chao Xing even be alive? They should have been smothered at birth. The post is gaining traction rapidly. Clearly, someone's buying engagement to boost it. In no time, hundreds of comments piled up, all attacking me and my brother. I clicked on a few of them and realized they were Lena's alt accounts. The third one, who threatened to strangle Chao Xing, turned out to be Lena's boyfriend. My heart skipped a beat. During prenatal checkups, nothing was detected about Jude's condition. It was only after he was born that we discovered he had supermale syndrome, and by then it was too late, even though he has all the challenges of supermale syndrome. Our family has never given up on him, yet now, under the influence of Lena and her boyfriend, they've become targets of such vicious online harassment. As I looked at that life exchange locket, a sudden thought crossed my mind, but I had no idea whether this thought was right or wrong. 2. Do I truly have the right to dictate someone else's life? Jude sat on the couch, his eyes vacant and drool dripping from his mouth. His eyes were widely spaced with small pupils, giving him an unsettling appearance at first glance. For years, our family hardly dared to let him go out alone, and if possible, we would have kept him on a leash at all times. My mother even quit her job to stay by his side and care for him full-time. I suddenly hesitated, murmuring, "Is this really the right thing to do? If I give you Connor's life, you'll become normal, but you'll be destined to die before 35. But if we keep things as they are, when you get older, in his past life..." My younger brother suffered from severe intellectual disability his entire life. Whenever he went out, people would scorn and curse at him. Eventually, he would tremble at the sight of strangers, and when upset, he'd lock himself in his room and end up covered in injuries. Though Connor's fate lacked financial fortune, he was able to live out his life in peace and safety. Faced with such a decision now, I find myself at a complete loss. Suddenly, my brother was left speechless. Okay, sis." I froze, suddenly realizing he was actually responding to me. Tears began streaming down my face in an instant. My brother, trapped in this shell of a body, must be suffering far more than I ever imagined, so I solemnly placed the longevity lock around his neck. Right before graduation, Lena and Connor had secretly gotten their marriage certificate since she refused to spend money on a wedding banquet. 2 years ago, Lena and I went to a temple to pray and unexpectedly ran into a fortune teller. After examining our birth charts, he marveled at my destiny, saying my life was filled with wealth, every aspect of it. He predicted that after graduation, I'd enjoy 30 years of incredible luck, with both steady income and windfalls pouring in effortlessly. Lena didn't believe it at the time, but over the next 2 years, everything the fortune teller predicted about me came true. So she must have been coveting my life from very early on. In our past life, she took my wealth and lived in luxury, causing my early death. This lifetime, it's her turn to pay the price. I'll gift her an ultra-masculine husband. Let's see if she can handle him. I picked out an identical longevity lock at the gold shop and wore it around my neck, which finally shut those people up. Lena happily took a selfie with me and posted it on social media, with a caption that spoke volumes. Fortune has knocked on our door, and Connor commented below, "Honey, just wait till I strike it rich. I'll take care of you. Thumbs up." She replied, "Okay, hubby," face with tongue. I'm really curious to see how they plan to get rich, though. Just when I thought everything was going smoothly, I started showing the same signs as in my past life: persistent high fever, hoarse throat, and being bedridden. How did this happen? I'm growing more worried with each passing day, because life is truly unpredictable. If it's my destiny to have a windfall, then every time I trip and fall, I'd be stumbling over gold necklaces. But if I still end up swapping fates with Connor in this life, what was the point of my rebirth? My anxiety grows by the day, yet I have no one to confide in, and Lena, after making sure I was locked in, grew tired of me and moved out of the dorm without even pretending to care. I told everyone I met I had someone divine her fortune, and they said Mina is doomed to be unlucky and plagued with illness. I advise you all to stay away from her, gritting my teeth and pushing through my severe illness. I sought out the Taoist priest who had read my fate in my previous life. After hearing the whole story, the priest said there must be something I had overlooked and told me to go back and search carefully. I had no choice but to go through everything she had given me, but found nothing. Just as I was about to give up, I shook the pillowcase and a small paper figure fluttered out. It was drawn to look exactly like Connor, with his birth details written on the back, the Taoist priest said. That makes sense. Both the lock and the paper figure are at work, and since you touched the lock, the effect is stronger on you. Fortunately, you found it early. I broke out in a cold sweat. That very day, I placed the paper figure under my younger brother's pillow and told our parents to keep an eye on him while he slept. By the next day, his fever had gradually subsided. In this lifetime, I'm going to see just how Lena manages to live as comfortably as she did in her last life. Soon after, my younger brother developed a fever, which terrified our parents. They wanted to take him to the hospital for a checkup, but I managed to talk them out of it. I said the fever would break soon, and they'd have a normal son. My parents hesitated, unable to believe it. After all, my brother had been mentally disabled for over 20 years, to keep Lena from suspecting anything. I kept pretending to be sick and texted her on WeChat, "Can you grab lunch for me?" She didn't even bother pretending. What? You don't have hands. Think I'm your mom or something. I thought we were best friends. Why would you treat me like this the moment I get sick? Best friends my ass. I've been fed up with you for ages. We're done. What did I do to wrong you? The message was sent, but it was met with a red exclamation mark. She blocked me. I immediately took a screenshot of the chat and posted it on my social media feed. My best friend wouldn't even bring me food when I was sick, and then she cut ties with me. Am I wrong to feel so hurt by this? Instantly, my social media feed was buzzing with comments. I was shaking with rage. I can't believe she's like that behind closed doors. No wonder. She's such a two-faced actress. Who would want to be friends with someone like that? On top of that, I received a lot of comfort from some sweet souls. An hour later, a loud knocking sound came from the door. Lena opened the door with an annoyed look and tossed the meal onto my desk. All right, that's enough. You're always making a fuss. I'm telling you, delete that social media post right now, or I'll rip your mouth off. But she used too much force, and the soup and rice spilled all over my desk, dripping down onto the floor. I took a picture of the whole scene and posted it on social media. 3. My best friend deliberately spilled food all over my desk and threatened to rip my mouth off if I keep talking. What should I do? Is this friendship even worth keeping? A flood of comments below accused her of being a gangster, even dubbing her the mouth shredder. Suddenly, she became infamous, and her name was met with sarcastic remarks everywhere. My phone started blowing up. Lena was so furious she nearly coughed up blood, calling repeatedly to get through to me, but I hung up with a stone-cold expression and blocked the number. I secretly went to the hospital to visit her husband who was staying there. Sure enough, Lena was there, gripping her phone white-knuckled. She's ruining my reputation like this. That damn woman. I can't stand her. Connor comforted her, saying, "It's all right, baby. The master said the soul transfer is underway. Just wait a few more days. Once I take her life, we'll never have to worry about money again. I'll buy you a house, a car, a private jet, a yacht. Would you still be upset over such trivial matters then?" Lena was captivated by his grandiose promises and held her breath in anticipation. "Darling, you must promise to love me forever then." "Absolutely." A cold sneer welled up inside me. Unfortunately, their wishes were doomed to be dashed. In this world, nothing comes without a price, after all. Every destined gift has its price secretly marked from the very beginning. Connor was discharged from the hospital soon. The life exchange succeeded. They walked down the road arm in arm, happy and cheerful. I dropped something thick and heavy like a brick from the second floor, hitting Connor on the head. Connor yelped, a lump swelling on his head, and lunged to grab me, but then Lena suddenly shrieked, "Honey, look, it's money." They both froze, their breath catching in their throats. There was a thick stack of cash, all in RMB, amounting to at least 30,000 yuan. Connor beamed with joy. The master was right. After swapping fates, money really does fall from the sky for me, Lena said with a hint of envy. That damn girl. How did she get so lucky? Maybe it's because the fortune teller revealed my fate that she got so greedy. Connor gave her a big kiss. "Baby, this luck is all yours now, thanks to your husband. I'll make you rich." They hastily stuffed the money into their bags furtively, then rushed into the store. With a grand gesture, they grabbed 2 iPhone 16 Pro Maxes. Connor is a financially struggling student who receives need-based scholarships every year and will have to repay student loans after graduation. Now that I suddenly had money, I rushed to spend it, but at checkout, the cashier awkwardly said, "Sir, we can't accept this money." "What? Why can't you accept it? Refusing to accept RMB is illegal, you know." "Should I call the cops on your store?" the cashier exclaimed. "This isn't real money." Only then did they realize, aside from the top few bills, the entire thick stack was hell money. Everyone stared at them with disgust. "Can't afford it. So you're pretending to be rich. First time seeing someone bring fake money. Did you really think you could pass it off as real?" Amid the murmurs, Lena's face flushed red. "Who says we can't afford it? We're buying it right now." Connor tried to stop her, but Lena insisted they couldn't lose face and pressured him into opening a credit line, so the two of them finally managed to buy the phone. After stepping outside, Connor was so furious that he threw the money on the ground. "Damn it, how dare they mess with me?" Watching all this from the shadows, I was already laughing my head off. The next day, I casually mentioned to Connor while he was half asleep, "I heard there's a large bag of money near the third pillar of the pavilion in the middle of the school lake, and it's almost rotting from the water." By the time he jolted awake, I had already slipped back into the crowd. He excitedly told Lena about it. Lena was hesitant because of what happened yesterday, but he insisted that the opportunity was too good to miss and was determined to go check it out. And the money was buried underwater. He rolled up his sleeves and waded in, only to find the water was much deeper than he had expected. He couldn't swim, so Lena went into the water to rescue him. He clung desperately to Lena, dragging her along, the couple nearly drowned together, but thankfully, the money was retrieved, for a full 500,000, and when run through a bill counter, it was verified as genuine RMB. They were absolutely over the moon on the spot. Unable to contain themselves any longer, they dashed straight into the luxury boutique. But as I watched their joyful figures recede, a cold smirk crept into my heart. I knew all along that the money was right there, so why didn't I take it? Because I know exactly how dirty this money is. Taking it would be a sin against one's soul. Didn't it cross their minds? Why would 500 grand just appear out of nowhere in that remote pavilion? But it's not like I forced them to take it. Whatever happens now is on them. During that time, the couple was absolutely radiant with joy. They treated everyone to drinks, rented a Rolls-Royce, and were constantly surrounded by people calling them godfather and godmother. Lena completely revamped her wardrobe with all sorts of luxury brands. She couldn't wait to move out of the dorm and into a lavish mansion, flaunting her wealth online every day. It wasn't until they caught the attention of the police and got hauled into the station for questioning. Only then did they realize that the money they took was dirty money. How dirty was it? The fraudsters were hiding out there, and that 500,000 yuan even led to a fatal incident, but Connor couldn't explain who gave him the tip. He just stammered that it came to him in a dream. Since they had already spent most of the money, the police demanded they repay the full amount to the victims' families within 2 years. They were completely dumbfounded. "Even if we liquidate those luxury items, they won't hold their value. We'd only get about 100,000 back." Before even graduating, they were saddled with nearly 400,000 in debt. Outside the police station, Connor said angrily, "Is this really a life of fortune? What the hell kind of mess have you gotten us into? You're the one who insisted on changing our fate. Now what? I'm ruined because of you. You're paying this debt yourself." Hearing him shift the blame, Lena snapped, "I warned you the water was deep and told you not to go in. You jumped in anyway, and now you're blaming me. If you hadn't been going on about money falling from the sky, none of this would have happened." The two of them nearly came to blows right outside the police station, and word of them being invited for a chat spread like wildfire across campus. The school deemed their failure to report finding a large sum of money and spending it without authorization a serious violation of school regulations, resulting in a public reprimand, disciplinary action, and a 10,000 word self-critique. This couple was on the verge of breaking up in an instant, but I can't just stand by and watch them break up. I haven't had my fill of the drama yet. In the elective class, Lena sat behind me. I raised my voice to make sure she could hear me clearly. "The fortune teller said I'm just having a bit of bad luck this year, but once I graduate next year, my luck will turn around, and not just ordinary good luck. I could win millions from a scratch-off lottery ticket." Lena's eyes lit up. 5, and after class, she went to Connor to make amends. "Connor, it's just 400,000. We'll definitely make it back next year." "Really?" "Yes, I heard Mina say it myself. You know how lucky that girl's always been." Hearing this, Connor decided to wait another 6 months and tough it out until next year. I used some clever tricks to sprinkle a bit of cash their way, just a few hundred or $1,000, which made them completely buy into it, so they started seeing that 400k debt in a whole new light. They don't realize that a frog would immediately jump out if placed in boiling water, but if the temperature is raised gradually, it remains unaware of the danger until it slowly boils to death. Now, they are the two frogs, and I am the one controlling the water. The water temperature is in my hands, under my control. Over the weekend, I packed my bag, got in the car, and returned to that familiar little alley. I heard a shout, "Hey, sis." My younger brother stood under the plane tree, waving at me with his eyes shining brightly. I rushed over, staring at him in utter disbelief. I was completely speechless, unable to utter a single word. "Sis, I remember everything now. I remember it all." Every sentence was so coherent and well articulated. I almost burst into tears at that moment. I've never seen my brother act so normal before. Mom came out too and said happily, "Mina, it's a miracle. Your brother recovered right after the fever broke, just like you said." My father's hair had turned gray, and his back was hunched. "I used to worry about how you'd take care of your younger brother after your mother and I are gone, but now, this old man won't have to worry about that for the rest of his life," Jude said sadly. "I've caused you both so much trouble in the past. From now on, I'll work hard to earn a living with my own hands." "But," I said sadly. Revealing that he would die young, I was prepared to face my brother's anger, yet unexpectedly, my brother patted me on the shoulder. "Sis, I'm really glad you did that. I would rather die with dignity than live in a daze." That period was truly agonizing for me, controlled by genes and crushed by emotions. I was powerless, forced to watch myself become a burden to my family. Tears of survival welled up in my brother's eyes. Our family held each other tightly, weeping uncontrollably at this moment. I'm grateful for my rebirth, which completely altered the destinies of both my brother and me. It saved our family from being torn apart and destroyed like in our previous lives. In this world, anyone who has experienced the thrill of getting something for nothing or stumbling upon a windfall will never again be content with earning an honest living and building wealth gradually. That's just how Connor and Lena are. After experiencing what it's like to spend 30 grand in a single day, who would even bat an eye at a 3,000 yuan scholarship earned through a whole semester's hard work, let alone a job that pays 30 bucks an hour? Even a dog wouldn't bother with such pocket change. I heard Lena say this, convinced they'd strike it rich next year. They went all out and took out loans on every platform imaginable. Their spending went through the roof, way beyond what's considered normal. Amid this recklessness, subtle shifts began to take hold. Connor, usually the model student, was caught gaming in class, ignoring multiple warnings from the teacher. Lena had no choice but to whisper a reminder to him. To everyone's surprise, his expression instantly darkened, and he slapped Lena to the ground. He then proceeded to kick and hit her without any restraint. The situation escalated so rapidly that it immediately caught everyone's attention. Someone quickly pulled out their phone and recorded it. The video quickly spread throughout the school in no time. The couple Connor and Lena became famous again. The school also gave Connor another disciplinary action. Lena ended up in the hospital after being beaten. It was that all too familiar hospital room again. Last time, Connor was making empty promises to Lena in bed, but this time, she lay there bruised and battered. When it finally hit him, Connor broke down in tears. "Honey, I don't know what came over me. I just lost control. I never meant for that to happen. You have to forgive me, please." Lena held her injury, saying, "Do you have any idea how much this hurts? It's not you who got hurt." Connor knelt down, kowtowed, and kept slapping himself while swearing he'd never do it again. That completely stunned Lena. In the end, Lena had no choice but to forgive him. Little did she know, domestic violence is never a one-time occurrence. Once it starts, it never stops. What's more, to make women believe their sweet talk, men will kneel, kowtow, and do the unthinkable, all just to get what they want. But soon, something else happened that took everyone by surprise. Lena was pregnant. Her first instinct was to get an abortion, but all the money they've been splurging was borrowed from lending platforms. Yet when it came to Connor spending money to terminate a pregnancy, he suddenly became reluctant. "Sweetheart, the year of the dragon brings great fortune. Next year is the dragon year, and my destiny promises 3 decades of financial prosperity. Maybe we should wait a few more months before going through with it." Lena's eyes widened in disbelief. "Wait a few more months and I'll be 6 months pregnant. Do you have any idea how dangerous it would be to have an abortion at that stage?" "Well, it's not my stomach anyway." Lena lost it and started pounding on him. "Why did I ever steal the household register to marry someone like you? I'm telling you, no matter what it takes, you better come up with the money. I still have to go to school." Damn it, he had no choice but to leave the hospital, and just then, he ran right into me. His eyes lit up as he stared at the money in my hand. "How did you get so much money?" "Gambling," I said matter-of-factly. "It's not about fate, it's all about luck. One time I turned $1,000 into tens of thousands. What a rush." With those words, I turned and walked away. He watched my retreating figure. Now he's saddled with hundreds of thousands in debt from loan platforms. Even if he postpones the repayment deadline to next year, the collection calls keep pouring in one after another. 6. Not to mention Lena still needs money for the abortion, so he took out another loan of $1,000, determined to turn his luck around with it. At the casino, the dealer went easy on him since he was a new face, so he turned that 1,000 into 10 grand, which was enough to cover an abortion. He thought about quitting while he was ahead. I said, "Why quit so early?" That 10K could turn into hundreds of thousands, so he went right back to gambling, ended up losing everything this time. He was about to curse me out, but I said, "Wasn't this your own decision to keep gambling?" Spotting a lottery shop, I pulled him inside. $2. "Give it a shot, screw that, I'm flat broke," I said. "When one door closes, another opens. Even though Lena and I split up, I still believe you've got potential." At my urging, he bought a lottery ticket for 2 yuan. I also bought a lottery ticket and secretly swapped it with his. He hit the jackpot, winning 30,000. I feigned surprise and exclaimed, "Oh my god, what incredible luck you have. You're definitely about to have a stroke of good fortune, trust me." This is what we call an early windfall. He went home absolutely thrilled, and on the way, he even picked up 2 gold bars. As the saying goes, poverty stifles ambition, while wealth empowers it. This time when he walked through the door, he held his head high. "Lena, my luck has turned. If you ask me, you should keep the baby instead of getting an abortion. Do you really think I can't afford to raise a child?" Lena carefully inquired about everything that had happened to him today. Yet she still felt hesitant. Could it really be necessary to give up her studies for the sake of the child? Connor said, "Suit yourself if you want to fight. This gold bar could sell for tens of thousands. Once I'm rich, plenty of women will be lining up to have my kids. You're nothing special." Lena thought it over and started to panic. Her mother once told her that the only things that truly bind two people together are blood ties, shared interests, or a child. If she aborts this child, Connor could leave her whenever he wants, and she'd have no way to stop him. But Connor is already showing signs of good fortune, and next year his luck will be even better. She just can't bring herself to give up like this. So Lena gritted her teeth and went through with dropping out. She found out about the pregnancy late, already 3 months along and starting to show, unwed and pregnant, and still in college no less. The scandal spread like wildfire across campus. Everyone knew who she was. Whispering and pointing behind her back as she walked by, to project an air of defiance, Lena deliberately dressed in age-inappropriate attire, sheer black tights, knee-high boots, a trench coat, and a Chanel bag. "What are you staring at? My husband is destined to be filthy rich. I'm married into wealth to live as a lady of leisure, unlike you lot who'll be slaving away for a measly salary. Who knows, I might even end up as your boss, hiring you to wash my feet." Her tone was downright brazen. Someone posted her remarks on the campus confession wall, a wave of mockery. Connor was waiting for her at the school gate. He didn't drop out, he was expelled. He got kicked out because he kept skipping classes and failed 10 subjects in one semester. Can't get either the degree certificate or the diploma. At this point, subtle changes had already occurred on Connor's face. His eyes were wider apart, his nose bridged flatter. His pupils drifted outward, making it hard to focus. And his forehead had become noticeably more flattened. At first glance, it was somewhat unsettling. Unfortunately, Lena was so blinded by money that she completely failed to notice. She bounded over to Connor and said, "Honey, I'm craving some premium steak." "All right, I'll cash in a gold bar and take you out for it." She smiled triumphantly, and I smiled even more triumphantly than her. I can't wait to see her reaction when she finds out the truth. As time goes by, they finally spent all the gold bars. But Connor, there was no more windfall, let alone a steady income. The family was increasingly struggling to make ends meet. She went to her parents for money, but they were already deeply disappointed in the daughter they had painstakingly raised. She had secretly married, gotten pregnant out of wedlock, and even dropped out of school without their consent. He cut ties with her and started a new life with someone else. After all, they still had a daughter in middle school who was an outstanding student. As a pregnant woman, she couldn't work and had to stay home all day, unable to even afford a caregiver. Connor couldn't even afford to buy meat anymore, and he was growing increasingly anxious, too proud to ask his family for money, so he went out to look for a job on his own. But he had been too sheltered at school and had no idea how tough the job market really was. Our university is a top-tier institution. Graduating would have guaranteed him at least a 5,000 yuan monthly job, but with both disciplinary actions and a dropout on his record, what company would dare hire him? Left with no other choice, he ended up doing manual labor at a construction site, moving bricks one by one, day after day, $10 for moving 100 bricks. Moving 500 a day means $50 in the pocket. He came home with his meager, pitiful pay. And the two of them just scraped by through the day, with no money for rent. They had no choice but to move into a damp, run-down basement. At this point, Connor's hypermasculinity wasn't too extreme yet. He still had some wisdom about him, so they always encouraged each other. "Next year, we'll be rich. Good fortune in the year of the dragon. Baby, once I make it big, I'll treat you right, perhaps when people are in dire straits." They all fantasize and yearn for a brighter future to help them endure the hardship. The little match girl was no different, lighting her matches on that snowy night, dreaming of all things beautiful, only to end up frozen to death in that bitter winter. It's time to shatter their sweet illusions. I've been wondering how to gracefully and gently break this situation, ideally while feigning complete ignorance. to satisfy the sudden rush of exhilaration I felt in that moment. But little did I expect fate would deliver the perfect opportunity right to my doorstep. During the weekend dormitory open house, my perfectly healthy brother carried his homemade meal and followed me upstairs. "Sis, this dish is absolutely delicious. Mom and Dad couldn't stop raving about it. I just knew you had to try it." I pushed the door open, planning to set up my small desk in the dorm room. Just then, I overheard Lena pleading with our roommate. "I've really been going through a tough time lately. Please, I just need 10,000. No, 20,000 is enough. We used to be friends. Help me get through this rough patch." The door opened, and Lena turned her head. I saw her, pale, puffy-faced, with disheveled hair and a protruding belly, looking completely disheveled. Meanwhile, I had just stepped down from hosting the show, still in my elegant gown with flawless makeup. I put on a perfectly feigned look of surprise. "Lena." She wasn't that surprised to see me. It was my brother who really caught her off guard. What about him? My brother's looks are back to normal now. Devastatingly handsome, standing tall at 6 feet 2 inches, with a deep, rugged voice and genuine respect for women. I just walked through campus last week and ended up on the confession wall. My QQ got flooded with friend requests. My roommate said, "That's Jude, hasn't he changed a lot? He even got into a university abroad. So impressive." I said with a laugh, "My little brother's sharp and driven. I didn't expect it either." Lena clenched her fingers discreetly, and I could see the jealousy written all over her face. It was as if I could hear her inner voice screaming, why shouldn't her brother remain a fool for the rest of his life? But with me standing right there, she was too ashamed to ask for more money and could only mutter a few words before making an excuse to leave. I felt there couldn't have been a more perfect moment. Fate often presents fleeting opportunities right before you. It all comes down to whether you can seize them. So I gently pressed the clasp of my longevity locket, a design perfectly suited for quick removal. With a click, it came undone and fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, Lena's eyes widened wildly as she grabbed my collar like a madwoman. "Wait, you didn't swap fates. 7, you lied to me." I looked at them in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" Jude let out an "Aya," and said, "Sis." My neck is so itchy. Pulling open the collar to reveal the collarbone, Lena saw clearly whose neck bore the true soul-swapping demon lock. She was on the verge of madness, screaming wildly, "Yeah, you did that on purpose. How could you be so vicious?" The roommate was startled. "Lena, what's wrong with you? It's not advisable to get overly emotional during the 3rd trimester." She went from initial shock and devastation to clutching her stomach, letting out agonizing cries. As fluid trickled steadily down between her legs, "Your water broke." My roommates rushed forward, some calling an ambulance, others helping people up, while I just held my brother's hand and casually followed along to watch the scene unfold. As Lena was wheeled into the delivery room, she cried out in agony, "I don't want this child. Get rid of it." Connor said, "What nonsense are you talking? Just 1 more month, and the year of the dragon will bring great fortune." But she shook her head in despair. Once this child was born, the outcome of her life was sealed, but she was powerless to change it, forced to watch helplessly as she moved toward her fate. Yet things went from bad to worse. The child she gave birth to turned out to be a supermale, with a vacant stare, drooling, and unfocused eyes, absolutely hideous. They say it's due to an inherited supermale gene. She broke down, crying, "How is that possible? I checked our family trees. There's no way this condition runs in our bloodline." The doctor cautiously replied, "Perhaps you should take a closer look at your husband." The remark jolted her, and she abruptly turned to look at Connor. Connor was sitting in a chair. She couldn't remember the last time she had truly looked at her husband. Perhaps it was because she was suffering from postpartum pain every day while he was out earning a living, that she suddenly realized, at some point, when he zoned out. His eyes grew vacant and dull, his hands and feet twisted unnaturally together. It was hard to tell whether the son took after the father, or the father took after the son. She let out the most terrifying and desperate scream from her mouth. The following year, my brother went abroad for university, and I pursued further studies at Stanford. After graduation, I settled overseas and brought our parents over as well. After all, staying in the country any longer would have likely led to bloodshed and disaster. 5 years later, Lena emerged from the kitchen wearing an apron, her hair a mess, clutching a spatula, only to see her husband Connor sitting at the computer desk, gaming furiously. He had already quit his job. He's completely lost his mind. All he does every day is play video games. The whole family survives on the 1,500 his parents send each month, barely scraping by, and their son Zane has turned the house into a complete mess. Brushes, electrical wires, and the sofa were slashed with a knife, and the table was knocked over when she came out. He lunged at her with a plastic dagger. "I'm going to kill you. Kill you." Due to his violent tendencies, every kindergarten refused to admit him. 8. The TV was broadcasting news about a Chinese woman named Mina who won $10 million in the lottery. Lena suddenly snapped at that moment. She grabbed a dagger, stabbed both of them to death, and then took her own life. When the news reached me, I was enjoying afternoon tea prepared by the housekeeper at my newly purchased villa abroad. Dad is fishing. Mom is gardening, and my younger brother is studying at Harvard. I still have a wonderful and happy life ahead of me. Story 2. As the apocalypse loomed with a zombie outbreak, I clung to my husband with one arm and our beloved dog with the other, savoring this chaotic end-of-days lifestyle. This morning, I was lounging in the living room watching TV when my phone chimed repeatedly. A pig icon popped up on the screen with the name hubby flashing underneath. I answered the call. "Hey," I greeted. "Baby, we're in trouble. You need to start stockpiling essentials online for home delivery," my husband said, his voice tinged with urgency. Yawning from the comfort of my binge-watching session, I replied nonchalantly, "What's the problem this time?" "No time to explain. We've only got 3 days. There's been an issue with a vaccine at the research institute, and there are reports of mutant, man-eating zombies abroad." Zombies. That snapped me right out of my drowsiness. Should I confront a zombie with a left hook or a right, or maybe let Little Black, our white Pomeranian of 3 years, take a bite out of them? Given my recent obsession with all things zombie, from TV shows to novels, and my husband's credibility as a pharmaceutical researcher, his warnings were likely spot on. I hung up and immediately called my mom. "Mom, you and Dad need to start hoarding supplies now. Enough to last over 2 years. Beef up the security around the house too." "We don't have much time," I urged. I mentioned the potential zombie threat, and she laughed it off, thinking I had gone stir-crazy from isolation. Fortunately, my dad, who was nearby, took it seriously. "I knew something was off," he exclaimed. "With all the viruses and natural disasters happening, it's just one thing after another. Don't worry, daughter. I've been reading up on apocalypse survival on Jihu. From The Walking Dead to Bear Grylls survival shows, I'll send you some survival tips." True to his word, Dad immediately embraced my concerns. He had even built a high fence in a cellar when constructing our yard, which now also featured a large vegetable garden. With all this preparation, I wasn't too worried. Ending the call, my phone buzzed with notifications from WeChat. It was Dad, sending me a folder packed with apocalyptic zombie novels and several popular links from Jiu for me to study. Like surviving the apocalypse with my family and hunkering down during the apocalypse, after browsing through the links, I promptly subscribed to a premium service for more exclusive content. I texted Dad a quick "got it" before calling my mother-in-law, who lived just across the street. "Mom, get Dad and come back home quick. It's urgent." She and my father-in-law, who usually spent their days playing mahjong and chess, hurried over. Standing at the door, she asked excitedly, "Mila, are you pregnant?" My husband and I had been married for 5 years and were enjoying our life together without plans for children yet. Mistaking my urgency for pregnancy news, they were initially confused. I quickly ushered them inside. "There's something even more important than having a baby right now. Zombies are about to break out," I declared. They looked at each other in disbelief. My mother-in-law touched my forehead to check for a fever, then scoffed. "You're not making any sense." "Oh, Mom, if you don't believe me, would you believe your own son?" I challenged. "The news from Carson's Institute is serious, and we need to start stockpiling now." Realizing the gravity of the situation, my father-in-law nodded solemnly. I pointed to the storage room with 3 freezers. "Mom, and I will fill these up along with the one in your room. Dad, please arrange to have our windows and doors reinforced with the strongest materials available." Ever since being locked down during the early days of the COVID-19 outbreak in W City, I had invested in extra-large freezers and made it a habit to keep our supplies well stocked. Some might call it post-lockdown syndrome, but I'd say my instincts were pretty reliable. Just then, the intercom buzzed. It was the delivery of the groceries I had ordered online, waiting for me to open the door. In our complex, entry to the floors required a card, facial recognition, or a passcode entered during a video call by residents. Before long, the living room floor was covered with various supplies and ingredients delivered by the delivery guy, causing me to rest my chin on my right hand and furrow my brow in thought. Little Black barked at the supplies, right? "You think it's not enough too, huh? In the movies, it always starts with a shortage of food, forcing people to go out in search of supplies, and then they end up getting infected. There are only so many delivery guys. After all, how much can they really bring on their electric bikes?" Seeing the setup, my in-laws could tell that I wasn't joking earlier. "Then I'll get in touch with someone to upgrade the doors and windows right now," my father-in-law said. Meanwhile, I changed into more comfortable clothes, grabbed the car keys, put on a mask, and joined my mother-in-law in taking the elevator down to the underground garage. We drove to the Shinha market, 5 kilometers from our home. It must be said, the environment here isn't as upscale as a supermarket, but the good thing is, it's well stocked, and each vendor has their own warehouse. They have all kinds of products. Everything you need for eating, drinking, and living is available. To stock up efficiently, My mother-in-law and I split up. I headed to the fresh food section, while she went to the household goods section. There was a complete selection of fresh pork, beef, and lamb. Before long, I found myself staring at the piles of meat that could fill 3 large freezers at home, lost in thought. Little girl, why are you buying so much? If you need to eat, just come buy it fresh every day, the butcher's wife, suspicious of the large quantity I was purchasing, remarked. Oh, I've invested in a stray dog rescue, and I want to buy more meat to make dog food for these poor fur babies, I explained, petting Little Black on the head. That's very kind-hearted of you, feeding such high-quality meat to the fur babies. For your compassionate heart, just add 500 yuan and I'll throw in 2 extra freezers worth 3,000 yuan each, which you can use for the future. Yes, we could use a few more freezers. Our house has a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom layout with a study and 2 storage rooms, totaling 180 square meters. Since it's the top floor, it also comes with a rooftop that's exclusive to the homeowner, inaccessible to others. Each unit has a large balcony, so the rooftop isn't open to other residents. My in-laws' house has the same layout. 1 storage room can fit 3 large freezers, and with those at my in-laws' place, using 4 storage rooms to fit 12 large freezers is no problem, sister. Get me 20 more slabs of pork and beef. I'll need the freezers too. Please arrange home delivery. But the butcher had only 2 more freezers to offer, so I called the previous freezer supplier to deliver 7 more freezers to my house. After sorting out the freezer situation, I successfully transferred 30,000 yuan to the butcher's wife. She happily arranged for the driver to load the truck. The way she looked at me, as if I were a fool, spending 30,000 yuan to make homemade food for the fur babies might seem foolish to others, but who cares? Then I purchased various other food supplies, 100 packs of chicken, duck, and fish, 200 cases of various canned meats, 100 boxes of compressed biscuits, 100 boxes of instant noodles, beef jerky, and various dried fruits, 200 buckets of rice, grains, and oils, 100 bags of vegetables and dried fruits, 200 bags of various seasonings, 50 boxes of white sugar, 50 boxes of chocolate, 500 boxes of drinking water. Seeing a row of semi-prepared meal packets at a nearby store, I hesitated for a moment but then walked in with Little Black in my arms. Little girl, are you stocking up for a store? How much do you need? The enthusiastic proprietress approached. I'll take as much as you have, I declared with a wave of my hand, much to the proprietress's delight. Thinking about it, if there's no natural gas, these meal packets are a good alternative. They can be heated in a microwave and are ready to eat. In the face of technology and tough times, surviving is what truly matters. That's about all we ate. I called for a small truck and had the shop owners loaded up. I ran into my mother-in-law while browsing the household goods section. I must say, my mother-in-law is really something. She got boxes of toilet paper, underwear, sanitary pads, toothbrushes, toothpaste, laundry detergent, shampoo, dish soap, trash bags, and more. All told, it was enough to last 4 people at least 2 years. She even bought quite a few quilts and dozens of boxes of hand warmers. Mom, you're amazing. Just have the master help load it onto that truck. I pointed to the nearby truck. Then my mother-in-law swiftly directed the loading of the supplies. Of course, I wasn't idle either. Little Black's food was also essential. I stocked up on 100 bags of dog food and 100 boxes of canned dog food. I also stocked up on 50 boxes of pee pads for Little Black. Just in case there really is a zombie outbreak, he wouldn't be able to go out to relieve himself. But fortunately, I've trained him since he was a puppy to use his own doggy toilet. Just when I thought everything was in order, Little Black barked in my arms. I looked in the direction he was barking. It was the stall selling fruit and vegetable seeds. Right, Mom's great boy. I showered his head with kisses. My in-laws used to farm when they were younger. They already have quite a few vegetables growing on their rooftop, along with a fish pond stocked with ornamental fish. Yet, this only utilizes less than half of the rooftop space. If we were to fully plant both of our family's rooftops, we wouldn't have to worry about fresh greens even after the apocalypse. I sourced 200 bags of nutrient-rich soil and various fast-growing fruit and vegetable seeds from the shops. I examined a pack of seeds. Now there are fast-growing strawberries that can bear fruit in just 10 days. Absolutely nice. Seeing a young girl like me buying so much soil, fertilizer, and seeds, the shop owner joked. I didn't expect someone so young to be into this kind of thing. Young people's hobbies change so fast. From chasing celebrities to raising virtual pets. And now gardening is in fashion. Yes, gardening is fashionable now. And you have such a wide variety, very business savvy, I replied, and that's how I ended my afternoon of shopping. When I got home, I found that my father-in-law was also very efficient. He had added an extra layer of steel doors inside the security doors of both houses, which didn't look out of place from the outside and wouldn't arouse suspicion. Our floor's fire escape also had a steel door installed, this way. Not only the elevator couldn't come up, but the fire stairs couldn't reach our floor either. Seeing that I was tired, my mother-in-law told me to go home and rest. She said she would call me for dinner later. "Mom, I'll rest for a bit. You guys eat. No need to call me," I said before heading back to my place. The elderly couple was busy organizing and planning the placement of various supplies in their house. I, along with Little Black, exhaustedly flopped onto the sofa and fell asleep. In the darkness of the night, a strong, putrid smell wafted over. It was as if raw meat had been left under the scorching sun, swarming with flies and maggots. The smell was nauseating, but I couldn't vomit even though I wanted to. I felt dizzy, as if I had been thrown heavily to the ground from a height. My body ached indescribably. Struggling to open my eyes, I saw a highly decayed face with an eyeball hanging out of the socket. Half of the face missing flesh, exposing the back molars. And the skin grayish-blue. I was so suffocated that I dared not breathe out. I wanted to move but couldn't, as if my body was tied up. Then the zombie opened its mouth and extended its sticky tongue towards me. I suddenly opened my eyes to see Little Black desperately licking my face. Phew, fortunately, it was just a dream, but that dream was too real. I raised my hand to wipe the sweat from my forehead. I was covered in sweat, and my forehead felt burning hot. Checking my phone. It was already 6 in the evening, and my husband Carson hadn't come home yet. Just as I was about to call Lynn, the door opened. "Baby, I'm home," Carson called out. Little Black, our dog, excitedly spun in circles and barked, rushing to cling to Lynn's legs as if celebrating his safe return. I tried to get up to greet him but stumbled and fell back onto the sofa. "What's wrong, baby? Why is your forehead so hot?" Carson asked, supporting me and touching my forehead. I had been busy all afternoon, and my back and waist ached. I must have fallen ill. Lynn fetched the medicine box and gave me a fever reducer. Looking at the nearly empty medicine box, I swallowed past the pain in my dry throat and spoke with difficulty. "Honey, we need to stock up on medicine. Who knows how the virus might mutate? We had enough food, but it would be a waste if we fell ill before we could eat it." I felt relieved that it was just exhaustion. Otherwise, I might not have remembered such an important thing. Lynn then bought more painkillers, vitamins, anti-inflammatory medicines, and allergy medications through a pharmacy app. He also purchased masks, alcohol, and protective gear. It's always good to be prepared. However, due to purchasing limits, we weren't able to buy much in the way of anti-inflammatory drugs, cold medicines, or fever reducers. I sipped the warm pork rib and corn soup Carson made, feeling much better. By the way, let's go check how well my parents have organized their supplies later, and maybe use their phones to order some more medicine, I suggested, picking up my phone to check the time. I didn't want to disturb them too late. Battery below 20%, enable low power mode. I had been so busy in the afternoon that I forgot to charge my phone. If the power station were overrun by zombies, we'd be left without electricity. Without power, all the supplies in the fridge would spoil. Thinking of this, I ordered several emergency power supplies, candles, and flashlights from an online store. But then I thought, if it really came to a situation like in the movies with no water or electricity, just stocking up on food wouldn't be enough for sustainable survival. We'd also need to consider how to physically generate electricity without power. As I pondered these utilities issues, Carson showed me a video from his work group chat. In the video, a middle-aged man declared dead in a hospital suddenly sat up with a pale, ashen face. Mindlessly, he started biting anyone he saw. Those bitten collapsed and, in less than 5 minutes, got up and began to attack others frenziedly. The hospital descended into chaos, and the footage was shaky. Finally, the screen went black, and the video ended. The hospital has been sealed off, and they are only telling the public that it was a disturbance by hooligans to prevent panic. Carson turned off his phone and petted Little Black. I gasped, realizing the urgency of the situation. The virus had spread to Peace City, a coastal area over 1,000 kilometers from us. We don't have much time left. Tomorrow, I'll ask Dad to get some builders to install solar panels on the rooftop and set up some large water purification tanks, Carson said, stuffing a piece of meat into his mouth, true to his nature. Not only had Carson thought about the utilities issue, but he also came up with a practical solution. After dinner, Carson and I went to knock on his parents' door. Stepping inside, I saw the living room is spotless, devoid of any clutter. It turns out my father-in-law had nailed up some shelves above the freezer in the storage room. He also moved the beds from the other 2 bedrooms to one side. He filled both guest rooms with supermarket shelves. Entering felt like walking into a supermarket. Common household items, snacks, seasonings, and grains were all neatly organized into different sections. This made things convenient and time-saving, as there was no need to rummage through boxes of supplies. Additionally, most of the bulk items were stacked in the study. Dad, you're really talented. You must be exhausted today. Not at all tired. Tomorrow, I'll transform the 2 guest rooms in your house the same way. It's enough for us to keep just the master bedroom for sleeping. My father-in-law said, today's haul was split halfway between our house and my in-laws. Our supplies at home were still unorganized. It would be nice if we didn't have to lock our doors anymore, I remarked. That won't do. The property management's access cards allow entry on any floor. We should be careful. Tomorrow, we'll connect our two studies. It's safer to move between rooms inside, my husband interjected, holding Little Black. Right, once the studies are connected, we'll hang a painting over it. If anything happens, at worst we'll lose some supplies, but no one would guess there's a secret door behind the painting. My father-in-law agreed. These two really are father and son, working in such harmony. I'm truly grateful to have such capable teammates in these trying times, my meticulous husband and my in-laws, with their strong execution skills. Brother Carson and Father Carson discussed the final details. Meanwhile, I used my in-law's phone to order some more medical supplies, but it was far from enough. What to do now? My mother-in-law looked at me. Silly girl, we can go to the store. Let me show you what Oscar-winning acting is like. With that, she whispered something to my father-in-law, then placed a comprehensive hat on my head covering all my hair, and dragged me and Little Black out the door. Woohoo, young lady, look. My daughter is not even 30 yet, and she's in the late stages of cancer. I don't want her to suffer through chemotherapy anymore, so I want to buy more painkillers for her. She said she hasn't seen the sunrise at Mount Hua, hasn't heard the sea at Galanju, hasn't tasted Australian lobster, cough cough, even though it's inconvenient to travel abroad now. I want to take her to see the sunrise and hear the sea, but she needs painkillers, anti-inflammatory drugs, cold medicine due to COVID restrictions limiting purchase quantities. My poor daughter may not get the chance to go out anymore. Pretending to cry, my mother-in-law held my head. If my daughter's wishes go unfulfilled, I won't want to live either. Wow, if this acting doesn't deserve an Oscar, it's truly a waste. I coughed a few times to play along. The young lady at the pharmacy couldn't help but tear up. Auntie, you are so good to your daughter. I was thoughtless. Rules are dead, but people are alive. I must help your daughter fulfill her wishes. The pharmacy girl, wiping her tears, went to the back to fetch a good amount of medicine. My mother-in-law winked at me and said, see, that settled it. And just like that, our city gained a new figure, a terminally ill woman scamming for medicine. After scamming several pharmacies, my mother-in-law even carried Little Black into a veterinary clinic. Little Black has been with us for 3 years. Who knew she'd be in the late stages of bone cancer? She hasn't seen the sunrise at Mount Hua, hasn't heard the sea at Galanju. The same scene played out for Little Black, who even feigned being weak and pitiful in Mother Lin's arms. The older generation truly has more experience, like a small knife across the buttocks, truly an eye-opener. Back home, looking at the boxes of gathered medicines, my husband and I smiled at each other. Indeed, they had also used my mother-in-law's tricks to buy a lot of medicine. The next morning, everyone started dividing the tasks to finish up the preparations. My husband and I were responsible for organizing the supplies in our house, connecting the two studies, and installing soundproofing material throughout the house. My in-laws took care of installing solar panels and water purifiers on both houses' rooftops. Wow, why are you hoarding so much stuff? Is there some insider news about COVID? The contractor remarked upon entering and seeing the supplies scattered everywhere. No. There's no supermarket inside our complex, they are all outside, which is inconvenient. I'm just thinking of turning it into a little supermarket, my father-in-law explained. Wouldn't this convenience store be handy for our neighbors? If someone runs out of salt or soy sauce, they wouldn't need to go all the way to the big supermarket anymore. Makes sense, right? You two youngsters seem to have a good knack for business. My husband and I exchanged a smile and said no more. Even after a zombie outbreak, we wouldn't have to worry about the construction workers coveting our supplies. Since we live in the east part of the city, we hired workers from the west. With such a distance, if it really were the end of days, forget about crossing the city. Even leaving the neighborhood would be a challenge. By the next day at noon, both our families had finished the last of our preparations. Dad had filled the rooftop water storage tanks. Beside the tanks, we installed water purifiers, relying on collected rainwater and purification. We'd have enough to drink. We also upgraded the water purifiers in our kitchens with the best antibacterial filters. Even muddy water could be filtered into clean water. We also fenced off an area on our rooftop for growing vegetables. My in-laws had already sown the seeds for potatoes, lettuce, cabbage, cilantro, and garlic. Next to the vegetable patch, they'd set up a fence topped with fine mesh. It turned out that my mother-in-law was raising quite a few chicks and ducklings inside. I swallowed, thinking how adorable they'd be once grown. Glancing towards the fish pond, I asked, Dad, did you really replace the ornamental fish with common ones? Yeah, well, that was your mom's idea. She said decorative fish aren't edible, better to have carp and grass carp that we can eat, my father-in-law said, sprinkling fish food with a somewhat reluctant expression. My mother-in-law teased him joyfully, "If you're so attached to your ornamental fish, then don't eat the braised carp I make." We all burst into laughter at this. I checked the time, it was 1 in the afternoon. After calling my parents to check on their stockpiling and home fortification progress, I advised them to stay indoors unless necessary, reminding them not to be too altruistic in these apocalyptic times, and then I hung up. Reassured, ding, 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 messages kept popping up on my phone. I checked and saw it was our neighborhood residents group chat. What is this? Looks terrifying. Are those zombies? Isn't that the Tianheng supermarket from the next neighborhood? Wasn't that supermarket closed due to COVID? How could there be zombies inside? Zombies? Really? Or just a prank? The group chat buzzed with chatter. I clicked on the video link. It was internal surveillance from the supermarket. In the footage, several people in red supermarket vests were chasing another person in a staggered, mechanical manner. The angle of the camera made it hard to see faces, but their movements were clearly unnatural. The person being chased was running as if they'd seen a ghost. Soon, the group caught up with the fleeing person, pinning and mauling them. When they dispersed, the person on the ground was a bloody mess, their scalp torn to reveal half their brain. It was nauseating to watch. As the video fast-forwarded, the victims staggered to their feet, brain exposed. Seeing this, I knew our neighborhood was about to fall. It was time for an emergency family meeting. Should we get some Note 7s for self-defense? They could double as bombs. I remembered the incidents of Note 7 phones exploding and mentioned it seriously. Let's not, honey. If they explode at home, the damage could be huge, remember? Dad has a chainsaw and electric fence on the rooftop. We're safe. My husband reassured me. Yeah, you're right. Silly me. Huh. I served in the military when I was young. I still have a big hammer in the storeroom. If zombies really do come, I'll smash their heads. My father-in-law declared confidently. That's right. The old man still has it. Don't worry. I've got my own ways too. My mother-in-law added proudly. After that, the 4 of us and our dog agreed to stay indoors from that point on. That afternoon, we downloaded a lot of TV dramas, documentaries, and traditional operas onto USB drives. We downloaded almost everything we could. My father-in-law enjoys watching documentaries, and my mother-in-law loves listening to traditional opera, which ensures their days are never too dull. At home, we have mahjong. Even if all else fails, playing a few games can help pass the time. I opened various social media apps. Topics like suspected zombie outbreak and survival of the apocalypse were trending. However, many videos were blocked and couldn't be played. The comments ranged from panic to entertained, and even some resigned to fate. Zombies are coming, and I'm still a virgin. What should I do? Was a particularly silly comment. Watch me live as I survive on a box of instant noodles. I don't want to die yet. I haven't even taken my parents to see the beautiful landscapes. Are people brainless? Remember how nothing happened during the so-called 2012 apocalypse. This zombie thing is clearly just a gimmick. Only I knew that the zombie threat was real. Messages in the residents group chat kept pinging. A middle-aged woman, brainless as ever, was bragging about her household supplies. Her profile picture showed a selfie. Although she was around 40, she had a pretty face. She posted a video showcasing her home stocked with fruits, vegetables, and grains. I told you the virus was persistent. Good thing I was smart and prepared. Many others were showing off their supplies, but none had as much as she did. Some complimented her. Sister, you're amazing. Can I come over for a meal if I run out of food? The middle-aged woman readily agreed. Our family didn't say a word in the group chat, as everyone's apartment number was clearly listed next to their names. Suddenly, a series of screams erupted from downstairs, sharp and incessant. My husband and I rushed to the balcony to look down. The security guard at the gate had been bitten by a zombie and, after turning, started chasing and biting others within the complex. It was a downfall. Soon, the area below looked like a battlefield from hell, filled with the stench of blood, which we could smell even from the 26th floor. About a dozen people, or rather, zombies, were roaming around the complex. It was 1:20 p.m., not yet time for school or work to end. Given that it was a Wednesday, I figured most people who left for work or school in the morning probably wouldn't make it back. Looking at the horrific faces of the zombies below, their skin pale and veins bulging, some with arms torn apart, others with their torsos shredded, moving mechanically as if they lacked all sensation, unlike the zombies seen on TV, witnessing them in real life. The sight of decaying flesh transmitted a shocking impact to my brain, almost making me nauseous. My husband hugged me tightly and stroked my hair. My in-laws clung to each other beside us. Many neighbors across the building drew their curtains together upon witnessing the scene below. It's terrifying. I never thought it would be real, my mother-in-law said, her voice trembling. It's all right. We're well stocked. Let's not look anymore. Let's go inside. My father-in-law comforted her and led her to the living room couch. After having dinner at my in-laws, we all went to rest. I couldn't sleep with the continuous roars and gnawing sounds coming from below. I turned off the lights and cautiously opened the curtains to peer through a telescope. The number of zombies had increased compared to the afternoon. It seemed many who rushed back from work or school were infected before they could reach home. Thinking about this made me feel sad. Those who left in the morning could never return. I made a video call to my parents. Zombies had appeared in their village too. Fortunately, with many people out working, there weren't many left in the village. Some elderly people who went out to enjoy the afternoon sun and couldn't escape in time were the only actual infections. My dad mentioned that the zombie seniors moved very slowly and had a delayed response to sounds and light sources. Hearing this reassured me. The situation for the elderly was much better than in our high-rise community, so there shouldn't be any major problems. After hanging up the video call, I opened various social media apps on my phone. The feeds were all about zombie news. It was already past 10 in the evening, but the live streaming platforms were still very active. There was even a famous outdoor survival streamer holding up his phone and broadcasting live. It looked like he was near the bund. "Experience walking zombies at the bund with me," he said as the camera zoomed out. Behind him, a long line of zombies followed. The streamer was ahead, riding a hoverboard. Seeing this, I couldn't help but complain to my husband. "This is ridiculous. He has no sense of danger at all. He's going to get himself killed sooner or later." No sooner had I spoken than a scream came from the phone. I quickly turned around to see the streamer fall to the ground, with a group of zombies pouncing on him like falling dominoes, biting him. I sighed deeply. I petted Little Black, who was lying beside the bed, and went to sleep with my husband. 10. A week had passed since the outbreak of the zombies. Yesterday, our community's water supply was cut off, and we couldn't make calls. Electricity and internet were still functioning normally. We could survive for a while without food, but the lack of water was critical. Fortunately, we had installed several water storage barrels beforehand, so our daily life wasn't greatly affected. We just switched from showering to wiping ourselves down to save water. Many in our community's chat group complained about the lack of food and begged for help. Some were willing to trade their Rolls Royces, others their properties, but who would dare reveal they had supplies at a time like this? Cars and houses were useless now. Food was essential. A few days ago, some daring individuals organized a group to scavenge for supplies at a supermarket nearby, but none escaped infection. Since then, no one dared venture out again. I was cuddling Little Black, watching Empresses in the palace. A woman's scream pierced the air from outside, filled with terror and helplessness. "Help, I'll give you everything. Just don't kill me." I held Little Black and pulled back the curtains to look. A woman was being thrown down from the balcony of the 22nd floor by someone. Her hair was disheveled, and her clothes were in disarray, as if she had just been violated. After a scream, the loud crash attracted many zombies towards her burst-open corpse. It was the woman from Building 5, apartment 2201, who had bragged about her supplies. I recognized her immediately. I had thought her foolish boasting would doom her eventually, but I hadn't expected it to happen so soon. On the balcony of the 22nd floor stood a man wearing only black sport shorts and a black cap, his torso bare. I felt disgusted. Amid the apocalypse, not only zombies preyed on humans, but such beasts also lusted after women's bodies. The man looked up towards my building. Our eyes met, but I wasn't worried. When we had renovated our home, considering privacy, we had installed one-way window films on the large balcony windows. We could see clearly outside, but from outside, no one could see in. Sure enough, within 2 seconds, the man's gaze moved away, sweeping over each window of our building like an eagle. But then, Little Black barked. Seemingly discontent with the man's earlier gaze, protesting with his bark, I quickly covered Little Black's mouth. Even though our home was soundproofed, in this silent apocalypse where even a pin drop could be heard, Little Black's bark was indeed too conspicuous. The man's sweeping gaze was instantly drawn to our floor. He scanned between the levels, seemingly searching for the origin of Little Black's sound. Finally, his gaze settled on the 26th floor, our level. My hair stood on end, and I thought to myself, it's over. Typically fearless, I now tremble at the thought of that woman who was pushed down the stairs. Don't worry, he just snagged some supplies today. He likely won't come our way anytime soon. Besides, the distance between our buildings isn't short, and with so many zombies downstairs, it would be tough for him to make it here alone. My husband kept rubbing my back, trying to calm me down. Through my tears, I said, "But what if he's not alone? What if there are no zombies in the basement?" Hearing this, my father-in-law stood up. "Carson, come help me lay out the electric grid. From today, we'll take turns keeping watch at night." "Dad, it's too exhausting for just the two of you to take turns. I want to join in as well," I said, regaining my composure. I was the cause of this situation. I couldn't just sit back. I could at least handle keeping watch, right? The four of us can take turns. That way, we can all get some rest. My mother-in-law said, holding my hand tightly, comforting me. Once we made sure there were no anomalies outside, my husband and father-in-law installed the electric grid inside the stairwell fire doors and attached bells to the door handles. If someone tried to force open the fire door, the bell would ring upon impact. We switched on the power from inside the room, and the grid was electrified. My father-in-law then poured wastewater over the elevator buttons, which soon broke down entirely. I couldn't help but give a thumbs up, impressed by their ingenuity. This way, even if that man wanted to come up, he'd have to climb up to the 26th floor. After all this, we returned to our apartment and barricaded the living room doors with boxes of supplies. With such heavy defenses, it should be nearly impossible for anyone to get in. For half a month, there was no sign of disturbance outside. It had been 22 days since the zombie outbreak began. On the 15th day, the electricity went out. Fortunately, we had solar panels to keep generating power. It was the end of November, yet daytime temperatures were still over 30 degrees Celsius. The strange weather was suffocating. Since it hadn't rained, we were very conservative with our water use. Of the 30 water barrels we had filled, half were still full. The stench of blood and decay from the zombies downstairs was growing stronger. Online updates were becoming scarce. But it was clear that this zombie outbreak was global. That afternoon, my husband and father-in-law were fertilizing vegetables on the rooftop. My mother-in-law was preparing braised pork ribs for dinner. I was walking Little Black on the rooftop when we heard the intense roar of helicopter blades overhead. The three of us looked up to see a military helicopter. "Quick, inside," my husband yelled. They dropped their tools and rushed towards me. My father-in-law didn't forget to scoop up Little Black. And in less than 5 seconds, we were all safely back inside. We entered through the north-facing balcony connected to the room and moved to the south-facing living room balcony, carefully peeking out from behind the curtain. Our building was at the northern edge of the complex, facing south, giving us a view of the entire area. The helicopter hovered briefly before opening fire on the zombies in the courtyard. Zombies hit in the head lay motionless as if dead, while others, not hit in the head, stumbled back to their feet after being knocked down. A deep voice from the helicopter's loudspeaker repeated, "Survivors, please stay indoors, await national rescue." The government hadn't abandoned its people, they were still trying. Once the helicopter ran out of ammunition, it left. Back inside, we enjoyed the meal my mother-in-law had prepared: braised corn and pork ribs, stir-fried bok choy, braised carp, and spicy shredded potatoes. A moment of satisfaction. "Mom, your cooking is so good. I could eat it for a lifetime." "All right, I'll cook for you all for a lifetime." Today even the government's helicopter showed up. "We must be close to better days," I said, as I put a piece of rib into my mouth. The rich and firm texture of the meat filled every corner of my mouth. Although it was frozen food, being able to eat meat a month into the apocalypse felt incredibly luxurious compared to others who had no supplies at all. Right, we can't let our guard down, after all. There are still many dangers lurking around in our neighborhood, my father-in-law warned us. After dinner, the four of us played mahjong until 11 at night. Since the whole city was facing a power outage, we had to be cautious with our electricity use. After drawing the blackout curtains, we only dared to use a small desk lamp to light our space dimly. Once we finished playing mahjong, my in-laws went inside to rest. Tonight was my turn to keep watch. My husband wanted to stay up with me, but I refused. I sat slumped on the sofa, aimlessly scrolling through my phone. All the major apps had not been updated with new content for 20 days. Opening Jihu, I began reading an article about zombies. Just when I reached a tense part, I thought I heard a faint tingling sound. At that moment, Little Black, my side, perked up his ears and began to whine softly. I knew then that what was bound to happen had arrived. I asked my husband to wake up my parents, and I signaled Little Black to stop barking. He seemed to understand and quietly sat on the sofa, checking the time. It was 3 in the morning, the time when people are usually in their deepest sleep. I crept to the door in the entrance hall with my flashlight in hand, listening intently to the sounds outside. The people on the 25th floor must all be dead by now. I bet it's the 26th floor. If the dog's alive, it means the people are too, which means they've got plenty of supplies. Yeah, big bro, this bitch has sealed the fire door so tight. What do we do? Aren't you a born thief? Can't you pick the lock quickly? I hope it's a woman. Then I could, heh. Listening to the voices outside, 2 men, both adults and sleazy. If they managed to break in, activating the electrical grid could at most kill one of them. Since they managed to get up here, they definitely had a way out. I thought of the basement exit. If they could bypass the zombies and safely move from the building in front to ours, they must have come through the basement. Directly below the west side of our building was the basement exit. After entering from the basement exit, They would reach the safety stairwell of our building's basement level. I glanced at the aimlessly wandering zombies near the basement exit, a group of more than 20. An idea formed in my mind. Why not give the zombies a big gift? The basement exit was blocked by a yellow barrier, but it was just plastic and quite light. I needed to find a way to let the zombies burst in. Thinking this, I whistled at Little Black. Pointing to the bathroom, I said, "Little Black, fetch that trash bag for Mommy." Without hesitation, Little Black jumped off the sofa and rushed to the bathroom, emerging with a bag of household trash. I tore open the trash bag, and the pungent smell of blood hit me. It was a used sanitary pad. I admit it was a bit grotesque, but nothing attracts zombies better than this. Then I filled a few water bags and packed them with the sanitary pad to add weight. I needed to make sure the bag would land precisely inside the slope of the garage exit, aiming carefully. I threw the gift from the west window of the living room, a loud bang. The noise attracted the zombies, and as if they could smell the blood in the bag, they crazily broke through the yellow barrier and ran towards the trash. But when they realized it wasn't a living thing, they started to disperse. I couldn't let them leave just yet. Holding Little Black by the west window, I gave the command, "Bite them, woof, woof woof, woof woof woof." Little Black's vigorous barking pierced the silent night, even more startling than an alarm ringing on an iPhone. The zombies below instantly rushed into the basement like mad. Shush, silence. Little Black closed his mouth. I moved to the door, hearing the urgency outside growing. It. Just smash it open. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of them smashing the door grew louder and closer. My heart raced, lodged in my throat, baby, at this moment. My husband had already arrived behind me with my in-laws in tow. The show is about to start. I signaled them to be quiet with a gesture. My right hand, gripping the electric switch, was soaked with sweat and felt sticky. Snap, it's on, I said. In a rapid moment, my sweaty palm almost missed the switch. Zzz. The sound of electricity crackled. Youngest brother, a man's voice filled with despair echoed. Soon. A smell of charred flesh wafted through the air. Damn it. ******ing hell. The man's curses continued outside, but it wasn't long before a scream was heard, followed by the sounds of chewing, gnawing, and tearing. Hearing this, I let go of the breath I was holding, my legs gave way, and I fell into my husband's arms. It felt as if all my blood had been rushing to my head just a second ago, but then suddenly, it drained away. I've killed someone, amidst the apocalypse. I thought I'd first lay hands on the emotionless zombies. Never did I imagine I would kill a person first. It's okay, they deserved it. My husband hugged me tightly and helped me to our room to rest. My father-in-law decided to take over the watch. It was almost 4 a.m., nearly dawn. After dealing with that man, zombies were still wandering near the fire escape outside, so we were not worried about anyone breaking in. We could use electricity normally at night again. A month of heavy rain had filled the air with a rotting, moist stench that was sticky and nauseating. The temperature had plummeted from over 30 degrees to just 1 or 2 degrees, even going below -10 degrees at night. The weather was getting worse. Fortunately, the gas supply never stopped, and we had started heating our home, keeping it as warm as early spring despite the biting cold outside. That military helicopter hadn't returned since the last time. Today was the 80th day since the outbreak of the zombies, and also New Year's Eve. From the afternoon, my mother-in-law had started preparing to make dumplings. She took a new bag of unopened flour from the shelf in the second bedroom. Pouring the flour into a large stainless steel bowl, she mixed it with a little pure water and luxuriously cracked 10 eggs into it. After stirring, she began kneading the dough. My father-in-law was chopping meat, while my husband was responsible for washing leeks and mushrooms. I took out a pack of frozen shrimp from the freezer to defrost and also soaked some dried wood ear mushrooms. The 4 of us gathered in the kitchen to wrap dumplings filled with pork, leeks, mushrooms, wood ear mushrooms, and shrimp. By 7:30 p.m., a table full of dishes was ready: braised belt fish, potato stewed chicken, ribs and corn soup, spicy pig's feet, sour soup fish, fire pot with mixed offal, pineapple sweet and sour pork, fried meatballs and vegetarian balls, deep fried dough cakes. My mother-in-law even managed to recreate a pot of assorted marinades with a taste reminiscent of a certain famous duck. Looking at the table full of dishes, I couldn't stop drooling. Little Black was also beside us, wagging his tail frantically, enticed by the rich aroma of marinated chicken feet, duck intestines, duck wings, mushrooms, and dried tofu. It had been nearly 3 months since we last had marinated flavors, and it was truly tempting enough to make one wish to eat until bursting. My mother-in-law's cooking skills were undeniably impressive. Seeing how I was drooling, my husband took out a few cans of cold Coke from the refrigerator. We exchanged smiles. He really knows me. Normally, we wouldn't indulge in soft drinks, but today was a special occasion. Seeing this, my father-in-law took a bottle of premium Mau Tai from the cabinet and joked, Why drink soda? Let's all enjoy some alcohol today since we're happy. The family joyfully dined together for the New Year's Eve dinner. Although there was no Spring Festival gala to accompany us, the warmth and joy were still abundant. I even indulgently opened 2 cans of dog food for Little Black, who happily wagged his tail and hummed as he ate. Outside the window, the world was cold and bleak, with zombies wandering about. But inside, the scene was lively with toasts and laughter. If not for the occasional howls of the zombies downstairs, I really thought that the dinner we were having today was just another ordinary New Year's Eve meal like before. 3 months have passed since the Spring Festival in February. Today marks the 180th day since the zombie outbreak. The military plane still hasn't come. It's mid-May, yet the weather remains bitterly cold, looking at the sun hanging in the sky. It feels like a light inside a fridge. It illuminates but provides no warmth. During the day, temperatures hover around 5 or 6 degrees, and at night they drop to -15. The worst part is, the natural gas supply was cut off last month. We've switched to using the stockpile of gas cylinders we had for cooking. Once those gas cylinders run out, we'll have to rely on an induction cooker. At least we still have hex science technology and tough ration packs to eat. However, the solar panels are absorbing less heat, leading to electricity shortages during the day. We wrap ourselves in thick quilts, huddling on the sofa for warmth while watching TV shows. At night, we're forced to turn on the air conditioning for heat due to the unbearable cold. Suddenly, a loud rumbling noise, the piercing sound of car engines invaded our neighborhood. Hearing the noise, my husband and I moved from the study to his parents' house, calling them to join us and peeking through the gaps in the curtains to observe the commotion outside. We saw 7 men and 1 woman disembarking from 2 black jeeps. They each held different types of rifles and began shooting at the zombies below. In no time, the 30 or so zombies in the courtyard were taken down with headshots. Then, a bald man took a megaphone from the car and stood in the residential square. He cleared his throat. "Attention all survivors. We are soldiers from the Military X Southern District 28th Squad, currently executing a zombie clearing operation. All zombies in this complex have been eliminated. Please gather your belongings and meet in the square within 15 minutes. We will escort everyone to a safe zone constructed by the ZF, 10 kilometers away." The bald man repeated the same message, while his companions gestured emphatically with their hands. "Dad, we're saved. The country hasn't abandoned us," I thought, excited about the near future when zombies would be cleared out, just as I was about to draw back the curtains. My husband quickly stopped me. "Wait, if it's a rescue, why are they asking everyone to bring all their belongings downstairs? These people can't be trusted. Although they wear shoes similar to military boots, they don't have uniform attire, and the 2 jeeps aren't military vehicles." My father-in-law spoke up. A sense of alertness rose in me. "Look at that bald guy, not to mention that soldiers aren't allowed to be bald. He also has a scar about 20 centimeters long from behind his left ear down to his neck. Judging from the color of the scar, it looks to be over 5 years old." My mother-in-law, who had been a head nurse at the hospital for 30 years, noted. A chill went down my spine upon hearing this. Sure enough, less than 10 minutes later, an elderly couple shakily approached the middle of the square, carrying half a bag of rice. Despite their gaunt faces, they radiated smiles like they were seeing the first light of dawn. A dirty-faced girl around 17 or 18, who looked rather pretty, also gathered in the square. After a few minutes, when no one else came downstairs, the bald man looked at the 3 people before him and spat. "Damn, is this all there is? The survival rate here is even lower than the last neighborhood," he cursed. The elderly couple and the girl, sensing something was wrong, showed panicked expressions and tried to run. But before they could move, the bald man ruthlessly shot the elderly couple down with his rifle. The woman wearing military boots chased after the girl and brought her back. "Boss, although we didn't find much in terms of supplies, this girl isn't bad." The woman hinted at the bald man with a suggestive look. The bald man grabbed the girl like he was picking up a small chicken, displaying a disgusting expression. From upstairs, I watched all this unfold, my heart aching beyond words. I knew this girl. She was a high school senior, often fed the stray cats and dogs around the neighborhood, and was very kind-hearted. I had bumped into her many times while walking Little Black downstairs. We had become quite familiar. Her parents often traveled for work, leaving her alone at home. I imagined how tough these times must have been for her, being a woman herself. How could the woman in military boots speak to the bald man so dispassionately? Uttering such demeaning words about another woman, ignoring the girl's screams, the bald man rudely threw her into the vehicle. In broad daylight, in the presence of others, the girl was brutally mistreated inside the car. Subsequently, 6 other men took turns entering the car. Seeing this, I felt a surge of nausea and couldn't stop the urge to vomit, as if something was trying to come up from my stomach. I quickly ran to the bathroom and started throwing up into the toilet, my husband, concerned, gently patted my back. For over a month now, I've been feeling nauseous and unable to eat. At this point, my mother-in-law also came over and handed me a cup of warm water to rinse my mouth. Mila, when was your last period? It seems like it was about a month and 20 days ago. My periods are usually very regular, but this month it's been delayed for over 20 days. It looks like we might be having a baby. My mother-in-law said somewhat joyously yet worriedly. I couldn't believe it. I thought my delayed period was due to the unusually cold weather, but thinking it over carefully, the timing did seem to match up. My husband and I exchanged embarrassed glances, and my mother-in-law, unbeknownst to me, had gotten a pregnancy test for me. Honey, I really am pregnant. Just as the three of us were about to celebrate the news of the new life, a new problem presented itself. My father-in-law mentioned that those beasts had already started searching from building one. And it wouldn't be long before they got to ours. Occasionally, gunshots and screams could be heard from outside. The zombies outside our fire door, having not fed for a long time, had already dispersed. Let's reconnect the power grid. It should still work. Beatrice, stay home and take good care of Mila. Carson, help me with fixing the electrical grid. My father-in-law said, taking the repair equipment and pulling my husband out the door. My mother-in-law and I sat on the living room couch, restless, as if sitting on pins. In less than half an hour, my husband and father-in-law returned. My husband led my mother-in-law and me to a small bedroom at the back of our room, which was used to store dry food and water. Mom, please take good care of Mila. If you hear any noise, don't come out or make a sound, he said. Then locked me and my mother-in-law in the room. Honey, open the door, my mother-in-law and I shouted from inside the room, but no one outside responded. Thinking of the people downstairs, we didn't dare to shout anymore and just shut up. We could only observe the situation downstairs through the window. A few men gathered some supplies and were now heading towards our building with guns, holding my mother-in-law's hand. Both of our palms were sweaty. Thinking of the fate of the elderly couple downstairs, and the humiliation of the girl earlier, my body couldn't help but tremble. My mother-in-law comforted me, telling me not to be afraid. Before the onset of the zombies, honestly, I wasn't afraid. I was even somewhat hopeful, although we had plenty of supplies and didn't worry about food and drink. The chaos, bloodshed, silence, cold, and the ruthless nature of people after the outbreak of the zombies all made me feel that this apocalypse was utterly despairing. I missed the bustling streets from before. I missed the scenes of dining and drinking with a few good friends. I missed the smiling faces of my parents when I went back home to freeload meals and their indulgent laughter. I even missed the annoyance of being stuck in traffic for half an hour on my way to work. I missed the heated arguments with neighbors over dogs fighting. How nice it was back then, thinking of this. My tears couldn't stop flowing. Don't be afraid. Let's be strong. We still have our baby. We must survive. The man downstairs walkie-talkie suddenly crackled to life. Return to base. Return to base. It blared. The man cursed and shouted a command to retreat. Boss, we're just missing this building. Let's finish searching in 5 minutes. Shit, we only found so little from the previous 8 buildings. This one won't contribute anything. Retreat. The men returned to their vehicle, threw down the body of the girl, and drove away. I hugged my mother-in-law, both of us gasping for breath. At that moment, my husband and father-in-law opened the door. The 4 of us, relieved as if we had escaped from death, embraced and sobbed together. I thought, if it weren't for them receiving other orders, with just the 4 of us, it would have been difficult to deal with 8 armed men. During dinner, my mother-in-law set up a plan for everyone to take turns taking care of me. I am now a priority to be protected in the house. My mother-in-law is responsible for preparing nutritionally balanced meals for me. My husband is responsible for cleaning up after Little Black, our cat. My father-in-law takes care of the maintenance of the solar panels and the collection of rainwater. Fortunately, the recent torrential rain had filled our water storage, enough to last 4 people for 3 months. As the weather gradually warmed up, we no longer had issues with electricity, however. As the temperature rose, the stench of the decomposing bodies of zombies and humans downstairs worsened. My mother-in-law instructed everyone to wear masks daily and to disinfect the windows and balconies every day. We spent 8 months in this stable manner. The baby was about to be born. Labor pains started at 2 a.m., and my whole family was bustling around to help me. My mother-in-law padded the room with mattresses, while my father-in-law boiled water. My husband paced back and forth anxiously, like a fly in circles. It was already 2 p.m., and after 12 hours of pain, the little one still hadn't arrived. I was exhausted, my forehead covered in sweat, having already soaked through 2 sets of clothes. Mila, come on, push hard during this contraction, someone urged. Mom, I might not be able to do this. Eat some chocolate, my husband said, nearly crying as he held out the chocolate. Don't talk nonsense. Silly child. As a head nurse in obstetrics for 30 years, I assure you both mother and child will be safe. My mother-in-law kept encouraging me patiently. Just when I felt so weak I could almost pass out, a loud cry echoed. Wow, oh wow. Following that cry, I felt a sudden lightness in my belly. The baby was born, I thought. I might be the first person daring to give birth during the apocalypse, while our family was immersed in the joy of the new life. The long-lost sound of helicopter rotors thundered outside. Dozens of military helicopters approached. Below each helicopter hung the familiar and invigorating bright flag, and, when the zombie outbreak began, my social anxiety unexpectedly saved me. I was living a self-sufficient, rural life in a countryside villa. On the day of the zombie outbreak, I was doing my usual drawing while sitting in my ergonomic chair. Suddenly, a message popped up on Instagram from my university classmates group. And the group exploded instantly. Damn, have you guys seen the news? There are zombies. What? Are you crazy? He's not crazy. My friend got bitten, and he's in the hospital right now. That explains why the hospital was so crowded today. I went for an emergency appendicitis, and no doctors have come yet. Could this really be the apocalypse? I'm almost out of food at home. Should I go out and buy some? The outbreak will take a few days to fully escalate. Stock up while you can. It might not settle for years. The group chat was buzzing. Everyone was terrified by the sudden emergence of zombies. Most people were working away from their hometowns, living in small rented spaces that couldn't store much. Even scarier was the fact that many had just started their careers and didn't have much money, especially now, as supermarket shelves were cleared almost instantly and prices soared, requiring even more money. Several classmates couldn't stand it and decided to go back to their hometowns. As I watched the constant stream of messages, my brain froze for a few seconds before I realized that the apocalypse had truly arrived. Looking at the abundance of food in my house, I felt an immense sense of security, too. Before graduating from university, my parents passed away. After graduation, I sold our city house and moved back to the rural village where I grew up. A major reason for moving back was my social anxiety. During my school days, I was very reclusive and didn't like talking to people. I wouldn't greet people I met. And neither teachers nor classmates liked me much. Even the neighbors thought I was odd. While my parents were alive, the neighbors would occasionally greet me for my parents' sake. After their passing, my relationship with them completely deteriorated. This feeling was suffocating, and I desperately wanted to find a place to hide myself away. After much thought, I returned to my hometown. Although it's called a village, it's not very remote, but most of the young people had moved out to work, leaving mostly elderly people, making the village seem unusually quiet. The house left by my grandfather was halfway up the mountain, and climbing up there was quite a feat. The old house hadn't been lived in for over a decade, and the walls were deteriorating, with the yard overgrown and unkempt, so I spent around $1 million to tear down the old house and built a new villa in its place. The villa had 3 floors and a basement. Although there weren't many people in the village, I was still a bit scared living alone, so I made sure the construction guys reinforced the walls and installed surveillance cameras on the doors. My house was on a mountain, with a winding and difficult road. Usually, I had to go to the town for shopping, and since I couldn't ride a bike, each trip took an hour or two, which was quite bothersome, so I bought dozens of boxes of instant food online, along with plenty of staples like rice, flour, oil, snacks, as well as toilet paper, sanitary pads, everyday medicines, and other daily necessities. Food and supplies filled the entire 3rd floor. Later, when I wanted some meat, I bought 2 large freezers for the basement and stored plenty of chicken, duck, fish, and meat. With all these supplies, as long as I managed them frugally, staying here for 4 or 5 years wouldn't be a problem, and so I lived in this secluded place for a year. I majored in painting in college, and after graduating, I didn't want to work in a corporate office, so I chose to freelance from home, mainly taking on commissions online. While I don't earn a lot, it's enough to support myself, especially since my parents left me some money back in the countryside. I continue to paint every day at home. I love the feeling of painting. The rustling sound as the brush or stylus moves across the paper or digital screen makes my otherwise still heart beat intensely. In this world, it's the only thing that makes me feel truly alive. Occasionally, I take walks in the mountains, and if I find wild fruit trees, I bring them home to plant. Fresh vegetables don't store well, so I scattered some seeds in the backyard, and they've started to sprout. Besides occasionally going out to throw away trash, pick up parcels, or pay the electricity bill in town, I hardly ever leave the house. Just days before the zombies appeared, I had just stocked up my storage. Unexpectedly, I had narrowly avoided disaster. I sat in my chair, rapidly scrolling through short videos, unsurprisingly, all about zombies. Some bloggers even daringly started live streaming related content. Join my live stream, watch me parkour away from zombies. Survival challenge of the apocalypse. Stay alive. Apocalypse survival shopping list. Buy what I buy. The fearless money-making spirit of these people shocked me, but looking at the comments, no one was criticizing the bloggers for seeking attention. Instead, everyone was laughing. So far, there have been only a dozen reported cases of zombie attacks, mostly in densely populated cities, and many people elsewhere were barely affected. some even believed it was just a rumor. Now, cut off from the world, I'm not sure what's really happening outside, but seeing how active everyone is online, I've relaxed a bit. Maybe, just like they say, it's all just a rumor. Still, I'm a bit scared. I dare not go out anymore, and at night, I don't even turn on the lights, just surviving day by day. A few days later, it was the deadline to submit my work, and as usual, I sent my watermark drawings to the client. But this time, the normally prompt response was delayed. I thought about calling to check but decided against it. Maybe she just hasn't seen it yet. While waiting for a reply, I steamed some rice, washed a couple of potatoes, and made beef stew with potatoes. I don't eat much. One meal a day is usually enough for me, but eating only once a day is hard on the stomach, so I split it into 2 meals, one meal at noon and one in the evening, and I skipped breakfast by sleeping in. The potatoes were soft and mushy, the beef chewy, and the aroma was rich. I thoroughly enjoyed my meal while browsing on my phone. Suddenly, a message popped up in my class group chat. Class leader, is anyone near Westtown Road? I clicked in, and responses quickly followed. Not there. What's up? I saw on the news. There's a zombie outbreak there. Really? It was fine yesterday. Are you okay? Class leader, not really. Zombies have surrounded our compound. We can't get out. They know there are people here and have started smashing the walls. The previously quiet group chat exploded like an atomic bomb had been dropped. The class leader posted a video of the surroundings of the compound. Outside the compound, hordes of zombies twisted and turned slowly but with terrifying strength, punching a big hole in the thick wall within seconds. The class leader's hands trembled as he filmed, not just the compound, but the entire street. Every corner captured by the phone was filled with zombies. You could even hear the intermittent growling sounds. After the video was sent, the group chat fell silent for a moment. The next second, the video shared by the class president was blocked, and their account was muted. Chewing on beef, my eyes caught sight of face after face covered in a sickly green hue, and I instantly retched. It was only now that everyone truly believed that the zombies had indeed arrived. It started with just one street, one community. Then the disaster spread throughout the entire city. Countless zombies swarmed the streets and broke into residential areas. In just a few months, several major cities had completely fallen. Some people had prepared in advance and stayed at home to avoid the zombies. Others went to shelters, with infrastructure damaged. The survival of many citizens became problematic. The government was striving to ensure the supply of essential utilities like water, electricity, and internet. But power outages were still frequent. I found the solar panels I had bought earlier and prepared to install them. For an art student, this was a huge challenge. Fortunately, I had picked up a few tips from watching survival live streams. After a Herculean effort, I finally managed to install them on the roof. The village broadcast began to announce, warning residents not to leave the village without authorization, to report any outsiders to the local police immediately, to stay indoors, lock doors and windows, and keep away from strangers. A bad premonition surfaced. This announcement seemed like a covert warning, planting a seed of vigilance in my mind. I went back inside to cook a pot of dried cowpea and spare rib soup. The cowpeas were from last year's harvest, a method taught by my grandmother. Dried vegetables could be preserved for a long time. The cowpeas were a bit tough, but I wasn't picky and managed to eat them anyway. I habitually scrolled through my phone while eating. The client hadn't replied to my message, and I guess they wouldn't. Fewer and fewer people were chatting in the class group, and eventually, only 1 or 2 were asking who had supplies. From their tone, they were nearly at their breaking point. I didn't respond, just silently turned off my phone. In the current situation, I dared not let anyone know I had supplies. The vegetables I had planted in the yard were nearly grown, the eggplants and cucumbers were almost ripe, and the tomatoes were doing well, with several plump fruits on each plant. Finally, I wouldn't have to eat frozen vegetables anymore. The village broadcast started again. I watered the plants while listening intently. The government had begun researching a medicine to eliminate the zombie virus, reminding everyone that if you encounter a zombie, run if you can. If not, try to stab their heart with a sharp object. Zombies, like humans, need to eat and require energy to function. They are just virus-infected humans, not invulnerable. The heart is their weakest point and the easiest target for ordinary people. Moreover, the broadcast listed a set of medicinal supplies. The virus carried by zombies spreads through their saliva and blood. If you're only scratched, cleaning the wound with these medicines promptly should suffice. Finally, the broadcast repeated the list of medicines several times. With a crackle of electricity, the broadcast stopped, and the world fell silent. The sun slowly set behind the mountains. Night had fallen. For months, I hadn't dared to turn on the lights at night. The thick curtains tightly closed. With no nightlife and unable to paint at night, I could only boringly pick up a few books to read. But with worries pressing on my mind, anxiety and loneliness tormented me. turning the words into twisted symbols that I couldn't comprehend. Although I was alone before, I could at least exchange a few words with the client, or lurk in the group chat watching others talk. But suddenly, it seemed like I was the only person left in the world. No sound, no one talks to me, and the fear and frustration inside have nowhere to go. It feels like I've been dropped into the ocean, suffocating, helpless. I toss and turn in bed. Suddenly, a beam of light hits the curtain. Though the curtains are thick and block out the light, I left a small gap just to be safe. At this moment, the beam of light dances back and forth outside the gap. It's like an eye searching for its target. I hold my breath. This place is remote, situated halfway up the mountain, and the nearest neighbor is over the other side of the hill. Who would come here at this hour? I tiptoe to my computer and turn on the surveillance to see 3 people with flashlights walking up the rugged mountain path. The light is too dim to see their faces clearly, but I can make out from their silhouettes that they are 2 men and a woman. In a few minutes, they'll find this place, and seeing the vegetables in the yard, they'll know someone lives here. Recalling what was broadcasted today, I quickly call the police. The nearest station is in the suburbs, a half-hour drive away, and it's too late for them to get here now. The officer instructs me to lock all doors and windows and wait for help, warning that these outsiders might carry a virus and have fled here, reminding me not to get infected, but I refuse to sit and wait for doom. After hanging up, I fetch a can of pepper spray from the storeroom, tuck it into my waist, and pick a sturdy iron rod, then stealthily hide in the attic. Though they are more in number, this is my home, and I know it best. A game of cat and mouse thus begins. The attic is pitch black, except for a hint of moonlight seeping through the only window. I squat by the window, using it to observe the movements outside. The 3 are just a few meters from the villa. The flashlight beam sweeps over the glass, and I quickly duck my head. Soon, I hear intermittent voices from below. I guess they have reached the downstairs. The trio is led by a muscular middle-aged man, another man who is slim and shifty, scanning the vegetable garden with his flashlight. Following them is a woman in an out-of-season coat, wearing a mask, occasionally covering her mouth to cough. Thinking back to the broadcast earlier today, I suspect that woman might already be infected with the zombie virus. The group circles the house a few times, hesitant to make a move without confirming who's inside. After a few minutes, the middle-aged man suddenly stops in front of the main door. He stands there for a moment, then suddenly looks up. I quickly press myself down, my heart pounding. Has he seen me? A sound, not too loud but amplified by the quiet mountains, makes my head ring. Peeking out the window, my pupils shrink in panic. The skinny man has climbed into the yard. Outside, the middle-aged man holds a rock, shining his flashlight on the smashed camera. He mutters a few words to the woman, then agilely climbs over the wall. It seems they don't plan to bring the woman inside. They are careful and cautious. But what they don't know is that I've installed many micro cameras around now. From a corner of the attic, I watch on my phone screen as the 2 men scurry around the first floor like headless flies. For safety, the doors and windows have been specially treated. Without tools, they can't get in. I breathe a sigh of relief. If he couldn't get in, he should have left by now. The middle-aged man seemed to realize this too. He put down his backpack and fumbled inside it, pulling out a round object. I stared at it for a long time, my eyes widening in shock. A grenade. A chill ran down my spine. How did he have such a weapon on him? Would I even survive if he threw it inside? Fortunately, the man seemed hesitant to use it, considering it would cause a significant commotion. My mind raced as I suddenly noticed a skinny man searching around elsewhere. Taking a deep breath, I stood up and descended from the attic. When the house was built, I had added a balcony on the 2nd floor. I thought it would be nice to relax on the balcony, sunbathing and enjoying the distant views after work. To preserve the aesthetic, I installed panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows made of shatter-resistant glass and left a small window next to them. I hurried downstairs and carefully unlocked that small window, pushing it open just a crack. I didn't dare open it too wide for fear they might notice something was off. After completing these tasks, I cautiously climbed back up to the attic. Through the surveillance monitor, I saw that the skinny man had indeed spotted the small window that was slightly open. Seeing this, the middle-aged man put the grenade back into his backpack. At that moment, I finally calmed down completely, but I didn't dare let my guard down and switched to the 2nd floor monitor. In night vision mode, a silver streak flashed by, the grappling hook securing itself on the aluminum window frame. The 2 men climbed up to the 2nd floor, one after the other. The 1st and 2nd floors were just my usual resting places. I had locked all food and supplies on the 3rd floor and in the basement. They turned their flashlights to the lowest brightness. The skinny men quickly found my refrigerator, stocked with various vegetables, fruits, and plenty of chicken, duck, fish, and beef. Damn, this guy is loaded, he said. The middle-aged man ignored him and continued to look around with his flashlight, finally settling his gaze on my bedroom door. He carefully held the doorknob, pausing for a long time before slowly pushing the door open. However, there was no one on the bed. At that moment, their so-called loaded guy was silently watching them from the shadows. Realizing the bed was empty, the middle-aged man became alert. He motioned for the skinny man to be quiet, and they checked both floors. They didn't find the basement or any people. Looking up, they both glanced towards the third floor. The third floor door was a security door, hard to break open without tools. The skinny man thought about smashing it open with a hammer, but the other man stopped him. The middle-aged man made a silencing gesture and pointed upwards. There, a wooden staircase led to the very top, the attic. This man was smart. He planned to clear all other areas before attempting the third floor. Since the third floor was the hardest to access, breaking in would inevitably cause significant noise. They were also afraid of attracting others. Seeing the two men heading towards the attic, I turned off my phone. The world plunged into darkness. Click, clack, the footsteps grew closer, finally stopping at the door. The air held silent for 2 seconds. Then, with a creak, the wooden door was pushed open. Inside the dark room, only slivers of light filtered through the window. In my mind, I gauged the height of the two men and placed my hand on my waist. The next second, the silhouettes of the two men appeared in the light. I pulled out the pepper spray from my waist and sprayed furiously at their faces. As the men were just beginning to react, I had already picked up the iron rod next to me. With a loud bang, the sound of bones shattering, the middle-aged man was strong. My strike pushed him back a few steps but did not incapacitate him. He covered one eye with his hand while frantically waving the other in the air, trying to grab the iron rod from me. With a scream, the man clutched his groin and knelt on the ground. As the old saying goes, strike while the enemy is weak. I swung the iron rod down on his head, hitting him twice with dull thuds. The man groaned, his head bleeding, and collapsed to the ground. Meanwhile, the skinny man screamed and ran away. I used the nylon rope I had prepared earlier to tie him up tightly and check the surroundings for any sharp objects. After ensuring safety, I took out my phone to check the surveillance. I dared not go downstairs recklessly to seek help, as the other person might be hiding, ready to ambush me. Fortunately, he had no intention of fighting back. The skinny man hurried out of the house and opened the front door. At the doorway, the woman, upon seeing him, was initially stunned but quickly steadied him. I glanced at the middle-aged man. He was completely unconscious by now, holding the iron rod. I passed by the second floor and took a long chef's knife from the kitchen. The skinny man had opened the front door from the inside, and I hid behind it. The middle-aged man was a core member of their team. They couldn't leave him behind. The woman, frail and weak, couldn't climb up the ropes to the second floor. They had no choice but to enter through the front door on the first floor, and I was lurking in the shadows behind the door. As expected, it went just as I had predicted. Soon, the careful footsteps of two people could be heard outside the door. My grip on the iron rod tightened then relaxed, trying to keep my muscles loose, ready for the prey to enter. "Turn on the light," said the woman weakly, her voice interspersed with coughs. The skinny man hesitated. "But there's someone inside," he replied. The woman coughed a few times. "We've been discovered anyway. It's better to confront them since they know this place better than us." The skinny man thought about it and started looking for the switch on the wall. Just as his hand was about to touch the switch, I seized the moment and struck him with the rod. A scream echoed from outside. Feng Ming, are you all right?" I didn't give them a moment to reminisce and rushed out, striking the man named Feng Ming on the head relentlessly. Another scream, this time from the woman. Blood splashed across my face until the man stopped moving and was barely breathing before I finally stopped. The woman was too terrified to speak but still tried to remain calm. "Don't hurt me, we just wanted some supplies," she pleaded. I pointed the iron rod at her face. "Then take off your mask." Hearing this, the woman visibly froze. She covered her face, looking at me in horror. "It seems you weren't really here for supplies." The woman glanced nervously at me and then at the iron rod. On the ground, Feng Ming was still groaning unconsciously. After hesitating, she removed her mask. I turned on the lights outside the house. Instantly, the woman's face was illuminated. Her skin was green, cheeks hollowed out, eyes bulging, and parts of her skin had begun to rot. The mutated skin stretched down her neck, only hidden by a high-collared shirt. On her fragile neck, there was a scabbed bite mark. A faint smell of decay lingered in the air. No wonder she was still wearing a coat in this season. Thinking about it, I put away the iron bar. "Follow me." I turned on all the lights in the house and headed upstairs. The woman followed closely behind me. There was always a distance of 2 steps between us. Once upstairs, I gathered some supplies usually stored there and took some vegetables and meat from the refrigerator. The moment I opened the fridge, the woman's eyes lit up instantly. She licked her lips. "There's another person with us. Where is he?" As she said this, she moved 2 steps closer to me, catching this from the corner of my eye. I pretended not to notice. I added some more beef to her share. We really mean no harm. We'll leave as soon as we take the supplies. You should let him go. Kidnapping is illegal, and you've also hurt one of my friends. If we call the police, you'll definitely go to jail. As she spoke, she moved closer again. You have a lot of food, don't you? Everything is chaotic outside. You must have stored this food in advance, but no matter how much food you have, it will run out one day. We're heading to a shelter. If you share some food with us, we can take you there. I ignored her and tossed 2 tomatoes into the pile. 15 minutes had already passed on my watch. The police would be arriving soon, seeing that I was ignoring her. The woman became anxious. Her gaze rested on the food in my hands and then slowly moved to my neck. She swallowed hard, her chapped lips parted, and her crimson tongue licked the edges. You might not know this, but in a couple of days, the army will drop bombs here. If you don't leave, you'll have nowhere to go but death. This time, she stepped behind me, her hot breath on the back of my neck. The next moment, the sound of a blade piercing flesh. The woman's eyes rolled for a moment before slowly looking down at the knife in her chest. It took only 2 to 3 seconds. The woman collapsed onto the floor with a clang. Outside, the familiar sound of an alarm blared. I let out a sigh of relief. Indeed, the broadcast was correct. The heart is their weak point. I returned to the attic, hid the hand grenades from the man's bag, and rummaged through their supplies. Quite a collection. Pistols, bullets, hand grenades, smoke bombs. They had everything. However, I dared not hide everything. If the contents of the bag didn't match their statements, the police would suspect me, so I only took a small portion: a pistol, a box of cartridges, a hand grenade, and a smoke bomb. After hiding the items, the police also arrived. People infected in the city are fleeing to the countryside, and the virus is spreading. If strangers come here again, make sure to call us promptly. If we can't make it, you can handle it yourself. Hearing this, my mood became particularly heavy. The unspoken implication from the police was, the situation is getting more serious, and the police won't have the resources to assist me from afar. I had to rely on myself now. After the police left, I cleaned up the house. Standing on the second floor, looking down at the mountain, I noticed dozens of villagers, men and women, young and old, gathered around the police car. Seeing the police, they all crowded around, probably hoping for assistance. After a busy night, I was extremely tired, took a bath, and went straight to bed, but in the early morning, I suddenly woke up. A chilling sensation shot up the back of my neck as an image flashed through my mind. My cover was blown. Suddenly, I rose from my bed and threw back the covers. Peeking through a corner of the curtain, I gazed outside. Dawn was breaking, and a few villagers were stationed halfway up the hill, occasionally glancing towards the villa. What I feared most had come to pass. In this apocalyptic world, the most terrifying thing is not zombies, but the human heart. Now I was fully awake. Although most people in the countryside grew their own vegetables, not every household had a stock of rice, flour, and cooking oil. The village had been sealed off for months, and even the landlord's family was out of surplus grain. Now, seeing police leading several people out of my house, the villagers couldn't help but speculate wildly. Did this family hide something valuable that had now made them a target? I couldn't just sit and wait for doom. I had a gun, but was outnumbered and inexperienced with firearms. I didn't even know how to load it. There were only about 20 bullets in the magazine, and about 10 remaining in the gun. After practicing with a few bullets to get a rough feel, I dared not use any more. Thankfully, the internet was still functional, so I hurriedly downloaded some information on how to make a crossbow. This included medical, cooking, and handicraft materials, as well as some information on firearms. I downloaded everything I could find. To pass the time, I also downloaded hundreds of TV shows and movies, only to find that I couldn't watch any after the VIP subscription expired. Frustrated, I cursed the greed of capitalists. I had no choice but to download everything again from a pirated site. A crossbow could be made from ordinary wood and bamboo, which was more practical than a gun. I cut several bundles of bamboo from the hill behind the house, which took an immense effort to drag home. I chopped them into sections, shaved them into slivers, and followed the tutorial to make my first crossbow. The first attempt was poor, with the range and angle inadequate, the bolts falling to the ground after flying just a few meters. I quickly made a second one, learning from my first attempt. This one could shoot about 10 meters, but it was still too weak. After several improvements, I finally managed to increase the range to 200 meters. Looking at the bamboo bolts embedded deep in the tree trunk, I nodded in satisfaction. Occasionally, villagers still peeked from the foot of the mountain, but none dared to approach. In a few days, they would start to venture here. I had to hurry. I made 2 more crossbows and several hundred bamboo bolts, worried about sleeping too deeply at night. I tied some ropes in front of the door. attaching them to the window and connecting them to my bed with bells. If someone touched the ropes, I would wake up immediately. For a few days, all was calm. The change came one evening. 3 days later, 3 or 4 middle-aged men, armed with agricultural tools, climbed up the hill in the last rays of the setting sun. A few of them looked around nervously at the door. They showed no interest in the vegetables filling the yard. As farmers, that was the least of their worries. But without rice or flour, vegetables alone were not enough to fill their stomachs. After several months of the village being sealed off, they had run out of oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, and they had almost finished last year's preserved meat. Some households who kept poultry were slightly better off, with eggs and the option to stew meat if absolutely necessary, but these men, typically working odd jobs away from home, had elderly parents who farmed small plots barely sufficient to sustain them. Before the apocalypse, they had often seen people moving boxes and boxes of goods up the mountain to this house, surely hoarding plenty of valuable items, their probing eyes fixed through the window. I quietly prepared my crossbow. The man leading the group smashed the door with a shovel and yelled inside, "Is anyone there?" I didn't respond. People below kept knocking on the door impatiently. "We mean no harm. We just want some food, and if it's not possible, we can trade items." Since the village was sealed off, every household was nearly out of supplies. There was hardly anything valuable left to trade. They just wanted me to open the door. For middle-aged men, if I let them in, it would be like letting wolves into the house. I wouldn't even know how I might end up dead. After knocking for half an hour and seeing that I had no intention of opening the door, they sheepishly left as it got dark. I knew that things hadn't reached a desperate state yet. They weren't ready to show their true colors. Would they leave so easily after a few more days? I couldn't afford to be careless and started to exercise. This body, and used for months, quickly became sore and breathless after minimal effort. Too weak, I regretted not exercising regularly. Now there was no quick fix. With increased physical activity over the past few days, my appetite also grew. I picked 2 green peppers from the yard, stir-fried them with pork strips, and steamed some plain rice. As I ate, I turned on my favorite series, Empresses in the Palace. When Jinhuan was leaving the palace, they came back up, this time with the village chief. The village chief, in his 70s, was still robust. "Is Conrad's granddaughter at home?" Conrad was my grandfather. That's how people in the village referred to him. I hadn't spent much time here as a child, so it was not surprising that the village chief didn't know my name. This time no one smashed the door. The visitors seemed amiable, albeit a bit sluggish, probably from days without food. I drew back the curtains of the French windows and stood on the second floor looking down at them. "What is it?" The village chief smiled warmly. "Don't be scared. I was a good friend of your grandfather. I even held you when you were little," I said. "Oh." His smile froze on his face. His eyes lingered on the vegetables in my yard. He couldn't stop praising them. "You've grown some nice vegetables here." His mouth spoke of the greens, but his eyes wandered everywhere. Finally, seeing that I was determined not to come out, the others couldn't hold back. "Girl, we're all from the same village. My grandfather and yours were contemporaries. You should be calling me brother. We're all from the same village, and times are tough for everyone. Your brother here hasn't eaten in days. I know you've stockpiled plenty. I saw it when you were in town. In times like these, we need to stick together. Just share some of what you have with us. We're not greedy. Just a little food will do. And when the zombies are gone, we'll repay you double." "Repay? If I give you something today, tomorrow you'll bring people to loot my house, and I'll be dead before the zombies ever pass." I couldn't be bothered with their nonsense, dropped a no, and pulled the curtains shut. It was quiet for a few minutes, but I knew they hadn't left. They huddled at the gate, muttering and planning. Soon, they reluctantly started down the hill, looking back every few steps. Before I could guess their next move, several kids ran up. Bang! A fist-sized rock hit the second-floor glass. What followed was an hour-long game of throwing rocks at the glass. The kids enjoyed themselves thoroughly. But the glass was barely scratched. The sun outside was blazing hot, quickly drenching a few children in sweat. Their tank tops clung to their bodies, and their little faces turned a bright red under the sun. I poured a glass of chilled juice and, while exercising, watched them panting from the heat. After 2 sets of military boxing, the children couldn't take it anymore and ran down the hill crying. Outside the window, the world was bathed in a golden hue, signaling a restless night ahead. In the evening, the village chief arrived with a few burly men. One of them kicked the iron gate so hard it rattled loudly. "Come out. It was you who threw stones at my son, wasn't it?" This man must have been a master of deception in a past life. The children were just a diversion, likely instructed to throw stones to create a pretext for breaking in. Knowing I wouldn't engage in conversation, they started to climb the wall. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Then, I lifted my crossbow. aiming at the man on the wall. Whoosh, the bamboo arrow pierced through the air, embedding itself squarely in his shoulder blade. A heavy man, about 150 or 160 pounds, tumbled from the wall and fell to the ground with a cry like that of a wild boar. The others paled. This young woman actually has a weapon. I knew that once the arrow was shot, there was no turning back. This action would signal to them that I was armed, giving them all the justification they needed to attack me. But such a day was inevitable, either live in fear or strike first. The village chief quickly instructed the others to carry the injured men away, but not without fiercely warning me, "Conrad's granddaughter, you started this, don't blame me." An arrow landed right next to his foot. His eyes, cloudy with anger, widened, and his beard bristled with fury. With a flick of his sleeves, he stormed off. I stood by the window, watching them stagger down the hill against the setting sun. My hand, still holding the crossbow, trembled. I had never killed even a fish before. In school and society, I was an invisible minor character, the good kid in everyone's eyes, and yet, I had just shot a man through the shoulder. My parents would never have imagined this. I wasn't going to sleep tonight, expecting them to strike while the iron was hot with a surprise attack. I took a machete to the back hill to cut some bamboo. Bamboo arrows were consumable. I would eventually run out if I was besieged at home, so I needed to make more. Time was short. I managed to make about 100 arrows, but combined with the ones I had previously made, it should be enough to handle them. At night, I slept with the crossbow in my arms, the gun resting by the bed. Ding! The shrill sound of the bell violently woke me. Someone had touched the rope tied to the door. I grabbed the crossbow and rolled out of bed, peering through the curtain slit. The shadows of the trees were vague, and the chirping of insects sounded like monster growls. Checking the surveillance, I spotted several people hiding under the trees behind the house. The ringing probably scared them too, so they found a spot to hide. After spotting the intruders, I breathed a sigh of relief and meticulously checked other areas to ensure only those few had come. After waiting a while, seeing no further disturbances, they climbed into the courtyard. My house was like a fortress, virtually impenetrable. They huddled below, scratching their heads in frustration. They squatted there, strategizing and gesturing towards my door with a plan to break in. They barged through the gate. A few people came to snoop around and left carefully, making sure not to alert anyone. When they left, they didn't forget to take some eggplants and tomatoes from my garden, my tomato and egg stir-fry. After they left, I went back to bed to catch up on some sleep. As I had a tough battle ahead the next day, I slept until the break of dawn. I fried an egg and warmed up some milk that I had kept in the fridge. After breakfast, I continued with my exercises. While practicing military boxing, I saw a group of burly men carrying a large log, armed with machetes and pot lids. Heading up the mountain, I grabbed my crossbow and arrows and went up to the attic, setting up the crossbow at the window. From this high vantage point, I could see the entire mountain path clearly. The mountain was densely forested, but they were afraid of my crossbow, so they dared not chop down any trees there to break down my door. Instead, they dragged a tree up halfway up the mountain with great effort. As they got closer, they used the pot lids to shield their chests. I smirked. Clever, but not clever enough. I changed direction, aiming at the leader's thigh. As they stopped to rest, I seized the moment and pulled the trigger. Whoosh! The bamboo arrow struck the man's leg, and he screamed, dropping the log and rolling on the ground in pain. With one support gone, the log fell to the ground, causing confusion among the rest as they scrambled to regain their balance. I reloaded the crossbow and aimed at the parts of others that were exposed, firing several arrows swiftly. Shoulders, arms, thighs. Each of the dozen men was hit, lying on the ground groaning in pain. The log rolled down the mountain path, and the village chief, in desperation, stomped his feet and came to confront me. "We're all starving. What harm is there in giving us a bit of food? Once the disaster is over, we'll repay you." "Do you really have the heart to watch us die?" To be honest, I didn't have the heart, but I was also afraid of dying. It was uncertain when the zombies would be cleared, and I couldn't be sure the supplies would last even for myself. "If I give you food today, you'll come again tomorrow. Should the entire village depend on my charity?" The village chief was still trying to persuade me, but the next second, a bamboo arrow pierced through his collar. "I'm not killing you, but that doesn't mean I don't dare to. Get lost, and don't dare come back. Or next time it won't just be the collar." In the following days, they indeed did not come again. I continued training day and night at home. In these times, every bit of strength provides a better chance to survive. The newly grown tomatoes were ready to eat. I picked two and made tomato and egg stir-fry, and also prepared some minced meat with eggplant. During this period of physical training, my appetite increased significantly. I used to get by with one meal a day, but now I needed 3 meals a day, or else I felt incredibly hungry. Day after day, the village's broadcast reported on the progress of the research for a cure for the zombie outbreak. The military and government were working hard to save every survivor, and they encouraged us to protect ourselves and strive to keep living. All was calm for half a month until one night, I was awakened by the sound of a bell by my bed. Stunned for a second, I leapt from the bed and grabbed the crossbow from under the pillow. Bang, bang, bang. Loud banging came from the door, and it seemed there was more than one person. I quickly opened the curtains and looked out, my eyes widening in shock. In front of the gate, 5 or 6 greenish zombies with rotting skin and bulging eyes were huddled together. They struck the iron gate repeatedly like emotionless machines, and after several attempts, the gate was nearly falling apart. Zombies are much stronger than normal humans, and this gate wouldn't hold much longer. I picked up a crossbow and aimed at them, but it was pitch black outside, and I couldn't see anything clearly. I dashed down to turn on the street lights, then hurried back upstairs to aim again, but the situation was still dire. The zombies were pressed tightly against the gate, and from any angle, there was no chance of hitting their hearts. Gritting my teeth, I pulled out a hand grenade, pulled the pin, and threw it at the group of zombies. Boom, with a loud explosion, the gate was blasted askew, knocking down 4 zombies, while 2 persisted and continued to slam against the door. Injured, their movements became stiff and slow. I rushed out, taking advantage of the gap created by the blast, and shot 2 arrows straight into the hearts of the remaining zombies. With a whoosh, the arrows struck their targets, and the zombies' bodies twitched before collapsing. All was quiet around. With no other zombies in sight, I cautiously went out, planning to clear the disgusting zombies away from the entrance. The cool mountain night air was tainted with the scent of blood. It wasn't just the zombies' blood, it smelled more like human blood. A bad feeling surged in me. Were there any survivors nearby, and where was this human blood coming from? I used a flashlight to look around and suddenly noticed blood deliberately smeared on some trees, following the trail down the mountain road. There was blood on a tree every few steps. I was infuriated. I spared your lives, and if you can't appreciate that, don't blame me for being ruthless. Under the cover of a moonless, windy night, I took out the unused pig's blood from the underground cold storage and smeared it all along the road. I even spitefully smeared extra on the walls of a few men's houses. After all was done, I secretly returned to the mountain, cleaning the blood stains along the way. I found an open area to burn the zombie corpses. When I got home, I fell asleep until late the next day. When I woke up, the sky was overcast, looking like it might rain. It's all for nothing if the rain washes away the blood from last night. I made some millet porridge and cooked a corn, eating on the balcony while watching the outside. The zombies from last night might have just wandered in by mistake, and maybe no more would come. Finishing my meal with a heavy heart, a figure caught my eye. On the concrete path at the foot of the mountain, a swaying figure with green skin, tattered clothes, and an odd gait was heading towards the village. It was definitely a zombie. I quickly grabbed my binoculars and saw about a dozen more zombies following far behind. They were purposefully following the trail of blood I had previously smeared. I took my tools to repair the iron gate of the vegetable garden outside which the zombies had damaged last night. The hinges were broken. I replaced them and installed a new lock. By the time all was done, it was nearly evening. The wind howled through the trees, sounding like wailing ghosts. In the evening, cries of despair echoed from the village, with non-stop screams from both men and women. I watched the village engulfed in flames with indifference, then turned and went back to sleep. Even without witnessing it firsthand, I could imagine the horror that had unfolded in the village. Sit within closed doors, and calamity comes from the sky. If they hadn't pushed me so hard, I wouldn't have become so heartless. The fire burned for 3 days, and the screams from the village lasted just as long. These past few days have been gloomy, with overcast skies, as if a storm was brewing. It was her doing. She hid at home, eating and drinking well, drawing the zombies to us, killing so many villagers. Kill her, and the food will be ours. Dozens of villagers united and pushed against the iron gate. Armed with knives and sticks, and carrying torches, their approach fierce and threatening. Either come out yourself, or we'll set fire to your house and no one will have peace. I remained silent, quietly pulling out a crossbow pistol and the last smoke grenade I had. Fine, you won't come out. Break it down, at the leader's command. The crowd surged forward. They were met with relentless arrows. At such close range, every shot was accurate. Not a single arrow missed. With a few thuds, 4 or 5 people fell to the ground, one after another. Those behind only paused for a moment before rushing forward again, smashing the door with sticks, throwing stones at the second-floor windows. On the quiet mountain, the sounds of smashing and cursing were incessant. Calmly, I loaded bamboo arrows into my crossbow. I looked up, and suddenly there was silence outside. On the monitor, these people huddled together, discussing something. The leader spoke a few words, and the others nodded in agreement. After a while, they dispersed and came back with bundles of dry wood. They piled the wood around the villa, and the leader approached with a torch. If she won't come out, she'll burn to death inside. Saying this, he lit the firewood. The dry wood caught fire instantly, igniting a bright blaze that soared into the air. flames reaching several meters high. Behind the flames, the villagers' faces twisted like grotesque ghosts, more terrifying than the zombies. They stood outside with knives, just waiting for me to emerge to end me. Boom, and muffled thunder sounded on the horizon. A light rain began to fall. It had rained. The clouds that had been gloomy for days condensed into rain, pouring down heavily, quickly turning into a torrential downpour. The flames were extinguished. The crossbow arrows continued their assault, cutting through the rain curtain, sending large raindrops flying, striking their targets with precision. The villagers screamed and scattered in all directions, but the bamboo arrows missed none. The sound of rain mixed with screams echoed through heaven and earth. 1, 2, before long, everyone had fallen. Blood flowed down the mountain with the rainwater, ending this one-sided slaughter. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, coldly watching the rain wash the blood away. The person who once could not bear to kill a chicken was now the perpetrator of this massacre. At dawn, the rain stopped, and the sky cleared. The village broadcast announced, the nation has successfully developed a cure for the zombie virus, and plans to distribute the antidote throughout the region within this month. Hope is on the horizon. Please, all survivors, protect yourselves and welcome the coming dawn.